I'm Jim Rugg, and you are listening to 11 O'Clock Comics.
What was that little drummy drum thing? Who did that?
Is he sitting on the leather couch? What are you doing?
Oh, no.
That's me sitting on the leather couch, sorry, yeah. That was me leaning forward to grab the mouse of the other laptop.
Are you incontinent?
No, it wasn't any
Feet on the couch.
It was literally me sitting up in the couch.
It sounded like a little squirt to me, my friend.
Ooh. Nah, dude. I'm nice and regular these days. I'm good.
Oh my God. We don't lead with this. It's the award show.
You can erase it?
No, I can't. Play it where it lays.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. It's 11 O'Clock Comics, episode 965. And guess what? It's the 11 O'Clockers for 2024. Woo! I'm Vince B., and I'm excited.
So excited. And I'm David A. Price.
Yes, you are. And, of course, I am Jimmy Kimmel.
Okay, what's the significance of that?
I don't mind that at all.
Well, he's a very frequent award show host,
And he's a compassionate and empathetic human being. He was
and
actually
he's a progressive dude.
He's a very progressive dude, and he was choking up when he was during his monologue the other night talking about the
And I met him when he was a co-host of the Man Show with a much less progressive dude in Adam.
Yeah, that
Carolla.
nice hat. Yeah.
Okay. Jimmy Kimmel it is. But you're not Jimmy
right.
Kimmel. You're Jason Wood, everybody. Oh, man. It seems like we did the 11 O'Clockers last week. This year has blown by.
Flew right by, right?
Yes. And just keep in mind, take note, that most of the things, if not all of the things, we are going to talk about tonight can be had for a song and maybe a little dance at cheapgraphicnovels.com. Cheapgraphicnovels.com have your OGNs, which we'll talk about, your trade paperback collections, your manga, which we'll definitely talk about, your omnibus editions, all that stuff for a fraction of what you're going to pay elsewhere. And take note X2, what you're going to do is, if you're a first-time customer, you are going to budget yourself, maybe buy one or two little things, and then you will receive an email confirmation from Max saying, wow, we're really glad that you ordered from cheapgraphicnovels.com. Here's our acknowledging your order. And you are going to bounce an email right back and tell Max that you heard about cheapgraphicnovels.com from 11 O'Clock Comics. And Max is going to say, whoa, it can core apple. And you're going to get free shipping on your next order. That's insane. Free shipping. Have you checked the prices of shipping these days? It's
only going to get worse, bro.
Well, yeah, it's massive. Oh, yeah, of course. And on top of all of this good stuff is the sauce. The sauce is a list of specials. What be they, Chef of the Future?
Chef of the Future. They are DC finest. Supergirl.
It's exactly like the episode. It's exactly like the Honeymooners episode. Oh, tell us about it.
So you have the inaugural, the first volume of
Thank you.
DC Finest Supergirl, The Girl of Steel, 40% off, $23.99, contains Supergirl's appearances from 1959 to 1962. And the stories are from Action Comics, Adventure Comics, Superman, Superboy, one issue of Superboy, Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane, number 14 and 20, Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen. We also have Kaiju Max, the complete collection, volume 1, 25% off, $29.99. This is the first of 3 epic volumes collecting Kaiju Season 1, Terror and Respect, issues 1 through 6. Kaiju Max Season 2, The Seamy Underbelly, also 6 issues, by 2-time Eisner Award winner Xander Cannon. Kneel Before Zod. This is a trade paperback, 35% off, $12.99. It reprints stories from it reprints material from Action Comics number 1060 and the 8 issues of the Kneel Before Zod limited series. That's by Joe Casey and Dan McDade. Space Dragon trade paperback. This one just seemed interesting to me. It seemed cute. 25% off, $11.24. There's 2 covers. The write-up is basically after his habitat planet runs dry, a gigantic dragon travels through space in search of a new water source with an alien bird passenger. But when he fails to find any drinkable water, the dragon must learn to push on through the unknown to avoid dying of thirst. And finally, probably one of the bigger ones this week, The Swamp Thing by Mark Miller and Phil Hester Omnibus. This is 40% off, $74.99. Collects Swamp Thing numbers 140 through 171 with a brand new intro by Hester and a brand new afterword by Miller and a gallery of never before seen behind the scenes artwork.
Look at that.
Whew.
You
We're
just
splendid with options.
You can't lose at cheapgraphicnovels.com.
For real.
Yep. And, waha, we have more patrons. Some patrons coming back, some new patrons.
Yes.
Who be they? Well, we would like to give a big old hug and a mighty, mighty thank you to new patron Anthony Lorelli and returning patron Tyler Verissimo.
Man, it's good to see him back. It's been by his own account 6 years since he's been a patron. So
see, they can't quit us. Well, they can for a little while, but
for a minute, yeah.
but like a virus, we never quite leave.
I like to think we're the comic book equivalent of herpes.
Either way, that's
you'll start scratching sooner or later. So
that's right.
There you go.
That's right.
Well, it is a special occasion. So in order to talk about the cream, I am drinking the cream. And this is Sam Adam. Old Fezziwig. Love it. It is an excellent brew. And I have many of them. Right here.
Nice.
Yes, just waiting to be consumed.
Respect it. I am also, because of the special occasion, drinking a lovely Tempranillo. It is from 2020. It is Pesquera Crianza. It's Argentinian, and it's Spanish. Actually, it's Spanish. My apologies. And it is very good. I'm sitting here with the entire bottle decanted, ready to be poured again after my glass is done.
It was going so well until you said decanted. Yeah,
you had that pinky out.
Listen, since I love everyone listening, no matter where your budget level is on the wine scale, even if you're like in the, I'm gonna go to the convenience store and buy a $7 bottle of
Julio Gallo.
19 Criminals or whatever the hell that's called.
He shits on that all the time.
I know, yeah. If you decant your wine, it will improve it. Like It's not going to turn an $8 bottle of red into a $100 bottle, but it'll make it drinkable. And like if you have a $25 bottle, it'll make it like it will improve every red wine you have. Honestly, it really will. And you just get a decanter. They're cheap. Pour the bottle, let it sit for 15, 20 minutes, and then enjoy.
There you go, folks.
How great!
You should just be happy I'm drinking tonight.
I'm so happy.
Yeah.
Gotta always qualify that shit.
Right? So rude.
Dap, what are you drinking?
Lipton iced tea. No, I am enjoying some delicious Blanton's original single barrel bourbon whiskey. It's got the little horse and jockey on the top. So, yeah, I figured I'd pop out some of the it's not Jason's birthday, so we're not doing triple digits, but it's the award show, it's the old Claskers, so I wanted to go for one of my pricier bourbons.
Jockey Toomey. Nice.
Dap doesn't decant the bourbon. He just gets a ball peen hammer and smashes the neck off it. He just drinks it right out of the bottle. He's like, yeah.
I don't even rate a saber. I just get a club. Okay.
Ball peen. Yeah.
I get it. That's fine.
What about the peen?
Hey.
Jason, why don't you inform the listeners on the behind the scenes machinations of the 11 O'Clockers? What do you do to prepare for this episode?
Yeah, well, this is a much different answer this year than every other year we've done this, right?
So, yeah.
In the past, I'm sure most of our listeners, I'm assuming, aren't new enough that they don't know this, but we had a litany of categories, and it continued to grow over the years until the last few years, where it was well over 30 different categories. And we would go through and we would tally the votes from everybody in every category, and then read off our picks and the listeners' top 3 picks from each category. And I very much enjoyed that process, but we decided to switch it up a bit this year. And part of the reason was because while doing it the way we did it was cool because we got to recognize tons and tons of great work, it frankly did force us, because we had so many categories, to sometimes highlight or force things in to the discussion that maybe wouldn't have been our absolute favorites of the year, but because it's a category we don't individually read a lot of, right? Like maybe horror for Dap or webcomics for Vince or, manga for me, whatever, right? Whatever the category may be. We would highlight things we enjoyed, but, wasn't because we were like really necessarily experts in that category that year. So we decided to try a different approach this year, and we'll see how it goes, but I feel like we all feel pretty good about it. What we did was we decided to kind of simplify things, and we asked for the listeners to give us their 10 favorite comics this year, and we basically left it up to them to define that. The only rules that had to be published in English for the first time were originally here in English this year in 2024, but it could be anything, right? It could be a one-shot, a single issue, could be a collection, could be, any form that you felt like, but just your 10 favorite things, and that is what we did as well. 3 of us don't know what we picked for each other. And then we also simplified the creator part of it, where we're just doing a list of our 5 favorite creators of the year. And again, it could be anything. It could be a writer, an artist, an editor, a colorist, a writer, artist, whatever floats your boat. Whatever 5 people made you the happiest in comics this year are the people you should have listed. And we did our online poll as usual, and we got a really nice set of returns this year. So I'm proud of y'all. Y'all stepped it up. Thank you for that. Hopefully the simplification led to more people feeling comfortable voting this year, which is great if that's true. Sounds like, at least anecdotally, that's what we're hearing, and it seems to show from the turnout. And so we've got everything tallied, and we are going to let y'all know the things we love the most. And time permitting, we'll maybe do some honorable mentions and stuff at the end. We didn't used to do that. In fact, we actively avoided it because we had so many damn categories that if we did honorable mentions, it would be like a 7-hour show. But I think since we slimmed things down, we'll have the time to do that.
I think some of them were 7-hour shows. Last year we had to split it up into 2 episodes.
We've
done that a couple
plenty
times.
of times. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
That's crazy.
Yes.
And you forgot one of the best things.
Which is?
The gift card.
Yes. Well, we'll do that. Right. When we do the listener at the end of the show, after we've done all of our picks, we will, and before the honorable mentions, I will ask Vince or Dap, they can fight over it for a number between 1 and, let me see here, 172.
Oh, so close. So close.
No, one between, and then whatever number you pick, that will be correlated to my spreadsheet of voters, and we will announce that person's name, and they will receive. And remember, the gift card amount was based on the total number of votes, and so we are in the $50 tier, and so you will receive a $50 gift certificate from our good friends at Cheap Graphic Novels.
Nice.
Yes. Had to get over 200 to make it to the 75. So.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We were so close.
So close. Yeah. But either way, man, $50, especially at CGN, will get you a nice, like one of those nice Omniboo.
Well, with the discount, you're getting 40% more in
Yep.
in most cases. So there you go. Oh, awesome!
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be fun. Yeah.
I think so. Any words before we get started, like about the year? I will say that doing it this year was like, it felt a lot different. Even compiling my list, I have to say that I don't know if it's because we're doing it this way or just a general feeling for each year. Each year feels different, right? But I feel like as I was making my list this year, I think it was a great year in comics, and I think, at least I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, I think it's because I spent a lot less time reading big 2 books that I weren't really interested in, and found time to read more things that I buy in order that would have just collected dust until I, got around to reading them. And I just feel like, generally speaking, my hit rate of stuff this year was just much higher for my personal enjoyment. So, don't know if you guys agree, but I felt like this was a really strong year.
My list of runners up could have been my main list.
Yes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Everything was so super strong this year but there were some, obviously, there were some clear winners. Stuff that, because we consume so many comics, especially serialized titles, whether they be single issues or manga, the retention level with all that information flooding in is not usually very high. And it's
Right.
it's the stuff that just smacks you upside the head and sticks with you that makes the top 10 a much more powerful reading experience in my mind. So my process, I didn't deliberate at all. I spent a total of maybe 30 minutes on my list, and I was done. I did not touch it.
Amazing.
I wanted, when you're trying to think of the stuff that was really impactful, the books that seep into your mind the fastest, those must be ones that stuck or resonated the most, because they're the ones that immediately pop to mind, right? And that's what I went with. And I looked at my top 10 list, and I was like, this is one of the best lists I've ever created for the awards show, because all of these books really spoke to me this year.
That's great. That's what we wanted.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dap. What about you? What was your process like? How did it feel this year doing it differently?
I really, really appreciated the new format, because I didn't have to. There weren't as many self-imposed rules, but and it allowed me to be a bit more freer. And what was nice is not having to stress over, no matter how few webcomics I may have read, which one
Right.
was the clear winner, or trying to struggle to find out. Like, I probably there were a couple of, thanks to Silver Sprocket. Yeah, I guess there were a couple of, maybe there could have been a horror contender. But yeah, I really had fun just going through the past year, what we talked about, whether it was a year ago this time or even in the middle of the year, but always going through the notes and going through my notes, going through the show notes, which is funny because there's one book that, and I actually do list I have the episodes that books were mentioned in, and there's one book which it amuses me that it was only mentioned once this year according to the show notes, and I know that that's not true. But
What are you trying to say? I'm slacking on the show notes?
Not at all. Not at all. Because
Subconsciously
the
that's repeats.
plus so much more. Just, I think that entices people to want to listen. So I don't. You can leave everything off. But you have. I approached it. I looked at everything, and I started. It wasn't like Jenga or anything, but I thought I had this is my 10. And then I went looking around, and I said, okay, well, maybe I did some moving around. I actually removed some, and I was quite like Vince. I'm very happy with my 10. But no, unlike Vince, it wasn't over for me within a half hour. I was still like kind of picking and moving things around even over the weekend. So I gave myself a deadline, but I took it to that deadline. But yeah, like Vince just said, I'm not one to just and although I did miss the spreadsheet and us fucking around with each other's.
That's what, like typing in Dick Lick in Jason's cell as he's speaking. That was.
I'm stunned because Vince mentioned, Wolverine.
Yeah.
Yes.
A couple other things. One important that I forgot to mention. When the people voted, the way I tallied it, it wasn't like they voted. They gave us 10 comics and they each got a vote. We specifically asked them to rank 1 through 10. So their first place comic got 10 points, all the way down to their 10th place comic got 1
I like
point.
it.
So these are weighted votes.
It's almost like he deals with numbers for a living.
Exactly. And then, not to get too nerdy, but some of the people listening will love that I'm getting nerdy. I then opted to recalculate the votes using a logarithmic scale, because I thought that actually a person's 10th place vote would be weaker in their mind and more likely to be easily swapped out for an 11th than their first, which is like absolutely the thing they love the most. But what was interesting is after I compared the logarithmic returns and the linear returns, there was very little difference in the top 25 for any of for the top 25 comics or the top 20 creators. So ultimately, I went back to the linear so that people wouldn't nitpick and argue that logarithmic is stacking the deck. But honestly, the results would have been pretty much the same, save for maybe like once or twice, like maybe 11 and 12 would have swapped, or like a 17, 18. But yeah, I did it that way. Also, we'll get to the listeners' selections after we do ours. But I will say, and I don't know what my booze are going to choose for their 10, but knowing what we talk about and what we seemed most interested in this year, I'm comfortable saying, at least speaking about my list, the listeners are still way more into mainstream comics than I am. their list is still decidedly more big two than.
Well, there's
than
more
mine.
of them than us. It's almost a
that's
textbook
true.
definition of mainstream.
Yeah.
That's true, and I will say the only thing I'll say about my list before we actually get into it is that my top 10 has nary a Marvel comic in it.
Same.
Same.
Well, there you go. Okay, so there we have it. So there you have it. We'll have to see how many Marvel comics made the listeners list later on.
Nice. Let's get this ball rolling.
Yeah, let's do it. Why don't we? I'll pull up. Why don't we start off with Vince? You go ahead and give us your number 10 pick.
Okay. I'm very confident that I'm the only one among us three, among we three, that has this on their list anywhere. My number 10, written by W. Maxwell Prince, illustrated by Martin Morazzo, with color by Chris O'Halloran, Ice Cream Man. I know it doesn't resonate with Jason very much, but and the shtick of the series is basically a creative writing experiment, where Prince tries to write himself out of a corner and just challenge himself. I think it's a brilliant book. The mythology's there. The stories are captivating. The 2-issue crash pair that happens over a infinitesimally small amount of time, yet 50 some pages were expended on the event. It's just an amazing series, and I love it, and I hope it never ends.
Nice. I'm not at all surprised it's on your list. It's been on your list in some fashion for the last few years. So
Yes.
Great. Dap, why don't you go ahead and give us your 10th?
My number 10 was a book that my notes are, it simply slaps with outstanding art. It's a killer concept. It is Petrolhead. And it is by Rob Williams and Pi Par. We talked about it on episodes 902 and 911, so it was definitely earlier in the year. And again, as I was going through my list, it was just something that stuck with me. Every issue we talked about, we were gushing over. It's a beautiful book. It's so visually striking. The concept is great. I can't wait for it to come back. This hiatus seems like it's been going on forever, but it was absolutely one of my favorite books, and it just made the list because I just loved it that much.
I think the other cool thing about doing it this way is I think we're going to have very little overlap between the three of us.
We might
Which is
have
awesome.
We might have a couple
No,
towards
there'll be
the
some.
end,
There'll
but
be
yeah.
some.
I think
yeah.
as we creep to the top, we'll have.
Yes.
Maybe. What I'm saying, like it's going to be really diverse, and I think, But anyways, in my number 10 is, Don't Let Go, by Michel Boussy, Frederick Duval, with art by Didier Casagrain, published by Lionforge. I mean, it's Magnetic, but Magnetic is owned by Lionforge these days. You guys may recall it's a graphic novel from France that they imported about a family on vacation at a resort, and the beautiful wife goes missing, believed to be dead. Her husband is the main suspect, and the mystery unfolds as to what exactly transpired, and it ends up being a pretty action-packed, crazy, lots of twists book. I absolutely adored it. In fact, I read that book in the same week I read 3 other books, and I thought it was like one of the best weeks I had ever read in comics, and 3 of those 4 books ended up making my list. That was like, I wish I could have every week like that could be like that week, but yes. So Don't Let Go. So our top 10 were Ice Cream Man, Petrolhead, and Don't Let Go. And so Dap, you get
Wait,
the
one
honors
second.
Mm-hmm.
Don't read anything into this because I'm asking this question following your pick. But is there any room in this for ridicule? Like, can we just bounce something like, I can't believe you put that shit on your list?
Yeah, of course.
I have never read that book of which you're speaking, so I'm not reading it. So.
Yeah. No,
Okay, that's cool.
Right.
That's cool. All right.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah, no, of course. Dap, you're up with number 9.
oh man, my number 9 was something actually collectively we enjoyed, if I remember correctly. It is If You Find This, I'm Already Dead.
Yes.
By Matt Kint.
Yes.
And Dan McDade, colors by Bill Crabtree. This was I didn't know what to expect, and then every issue got weirder in a good way, in a great way. It's just what you read in the title is right there, but it's McDade's work was. This was a big year for me with McDade, but it was. I dug the sci-fi aspect of it. They're out in space. There's aliens. It's a weird world. It's crazy. It's one of my favorite things that McKinnon has written.
Yeah.
And I just, it was, I don't know if it was a sleeper for Dark Horse, but I absolutely adored it. And I want more from this creative team.
Well, they surely lavished some kind of upscale production on it. They did its due. They gave it its due. But I got to tell you, if Kent did that all the time, he would be far higher up my list, because I thought that book was absolutely perfect.
And if you want to hear more about it, we talked about it in episodes 899 and 921.
Look at you. I love that you have the episodes. I did not do that.
I didn't do it either.
Okay, so I'm up then for our number 9, and it is certainly a book of, as I look at my list, it's one of the books I think that got a lot of hype versus some of my other picks, like more consensus, and that is Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, written and drawn by Patrick Horvath, published by IDW. This, of course, was the talk of the early year because dude draws like Richard Scarry, which for those of us that are of a certain age, like we grew up reading Richard, or when we were little, we read Richard Scarry books. But instead of, just sort of like, oh, find the truck, it's like find where she, cuts out the entrails and hangs someone from a tree. So yeah, just a really fascinating take, right? It's basically, well, not basically, it's a serial killer versus serial killer story in a small town drawn like Richard Scarry. And I just thought it was delightful. And, I've had this running theme this year, last year, that I think will continue for a long time, which is that I want to be surprised and read things that are different either in structure or the visual approach, and this certainly fits that. And I adored it, and I don't know if we're ever going to get any more, but I'm definitely going to pay attention to Patrick Horvath regardless of what else he does.
He's got something, I think, coming out from...
he does. Yeah,
Oni?
like a one-shot. Yeah, one-shot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm number 9.
You're number 9, sir, yes.
My number 9. Should this creator ever need to find employment? When you're a creative type, especially a visual creator, you usually have a portfolio of your strongest work. This volume is a one creator anthology that they could slam down on the desk at any job interview, regardless of publisher, genre, anything. It is an amazingly strong set of visually diverse storytelling. I mean, worlds apart in the styles between the first story, the next story. There is a gulf between the styles. It is an absolutely amazing book. It's a big dick statement. Like, what can you do? Slam it down on the desk? I can do anything because I'm Tommy Masturi and I made Future.
Yes.
Future's just incredible.
Yeah.
It's actually a book that if you're a visual stylist and you peruse Tommy Masturi's Future, I'm wondering how many creative types got halfway through it and said, what the fuck am I doing? Like, there's no way I could ever produce work on the level of any of the strips in this comic, in this book. It is just amazing. I won't gush anymore. If you haven't read Future by Tommy Masturi from Fantagraphics, holy mackerel, Andy, you need to get it. It's a revelation. I mean, I knew what he was capable of because I followed the artist, but there's some stuff in here I was like, where were you hiding this, bro? This is just chef's kiss.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, that book was ridiculous.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I think I am up for starting off with number 8. A creator that certainly Dap and I both love. I don't know that Vince has actually read anything from this gentleman.
We'll see.
I don't recall. But Dap and I have talked about a good chunk of his work over the years. And we got the pleasure of getting a new graphic novel from him this year here in the US of A. The creator is Jordi Lafabra, and the book is I Am Their Silence, the Barcelona Murder Mystery. Listen, Lefebvre is just like can do no wrong for me. Ever since I became aware of him, maybe like 5 years ago, late to the party. I just think everything he's done is magic, and this was awesome. This was a super fun murder mystery where a cute as a button psychiatrist is happens to be at an estate, and a winemaker is murdered, and she has to basically play Sherlock Holmes and solve the whodunit. Very much in the vibe of like the Glass Onion stuff, and I don't know. It just seems to be that seems to be a genre that I'm really drawn to these days if it's executed well. So, published by Europe Comics, and I absolutely adored the book. So, I am their Silence Barcelona murder mystery.
Have not read anything by that creator.
I know.
There's my heart.
Sorry.
I believe it is Vince next.
Me? Wow.
Yeah, 'cause we're doing a slide, yeah.
I super cheated on this one. Maybe you'll see it as cheating, but were I to do a legit top 10 and only include single books under this imprint, they would probably take up 3 slots, maybe 4. So I grouped them together, and I am, of course, talking about the Ghost Machine books.
Of course.
Which I absolutely devoured. My expectations going in were very low. In fact, if you go back and listen to our New York Comic-Con and our heroes, I just was like, oh yeah, they were doing that Ghost Machine shit, and we didn't go over to the booth and blah, blah, blah. But the New York one, I think we were going to go to the booth, but we never did because it was too busy. But yeah, I didn't assume that these books were going to be anything other than the same old stuff, from Johns and whatever. But holy crap, was I proven wrong. Rook, Exodus, Geiger, Hyde Street, Rockefellers, and the surprise hit with me out of all of them is Redcoat. These books just spun my head around this past year, and I think I talked about them pound for pound more than I spoke on any other book last year.
Oh, for sure.
100%.
Absolutely, dude. Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
And I was thinking about it, and I know that you had pretty much preemptively told us that you were planning on cheating by grouping.
Yeah.
But they did have that one shot, which included previews of all these issues. So I consider it. You know what?
You'll allow it.
I would just it's just under the one shot. So sure. But no,
you were not alone. Lots of people that voted also did the same thing, probably for fear that it would take up too many of their list otherwise.
Of course.
But that just speaks to the power of the imprint. All the books, the majority of the books are exceptionally strong. Thank you,
and
Jeff
I don't
Johns.
even know if and that's exactly it. It's pretty much Jeff Johns obviously spearheaded it because writing the first 3 books and kind of. But I mean, when you look at the masthead, everybody is pretty much equal creatively. But when I think about the hit rate of when each series started, well, at least with the second run, because they originally had Junkyard Joe and Geiger, and then they did a kind of reboot. But when I look at this line and how it started strong and how it's pretty much maintained that month in, month out, I don't know of whether it's Legend, whether it's Bravura, whether it's not even heavy hitters, but the Malibu imprint. Like, I don't know any other imprint really that had such a successful average with the number of books they have and each one being really strong.
Early Valiant.
Right, and again, though, it wasn't a singular vision, but it was a bullpen aspect where Shooter kind of worked with people that he's worked with before, so they kind of all agreed on everything. But yeah, Valiant was slow. Valiant was slow and steady, and they didn't drown out the competition, and neither is Ghost Machine. But it's they're doing it right, and I don't blame you for the pick.
And I think they acknowledge the fact that comics are only getting more expensive. So to produce a book with the production values of these, with a cardstock cover and 20 plus pages of content in each issue for $3.99, when the other guys are $4.99 and inching higher, I think it's a nod to the longtime comics fan that we understand these books are expensive. I mean, the only other person in the industry that's undercutting Ghost Machine is Todd with his Spawn books, and that's only because he's loaded. And they're all still $2.99.
And I don't even know. And how many though do you feel are actually worth the $2.99 though?
None. Yeah, after my experiment last year, I would confidently say none. Yes.
No, it warms my heart how much you guys love the Ghost Machine. I mean, it's and you're not alone, as we'll find out later.
Ooh, foreshadowing. I love that.
Yes. All right, Dap, you're up number 8.
Number 8. We talked about this in episodes 942 and 959. This is The Power Fantasy by Kieran Gillen and Casper Weingard. It's just tight and right because there's only 6 powered beings on the planet, and we've had 5 issues. The next issue will be out next month, and they're just it's moving along. It's got a solid pace. I like the aspect of it. It's just it takes place within a 50-year window from 1949 to 1999. Shit's going down that we haven't even witnessed yet, that we haven't heard about. They've been hinting at things like where's England or where's Europe, and there's just I'm excited to see where Kieran is taking these characters and the readers. But it looks great. We've enjoyed Casper's artwork, and it's
he's never looked better though.
It looks absolutely fantastic. I enjoy Thunderbolt, but this is just
that was his. I would have said that's another level. He never looked better than Thunderbolt until this.
Yes, 100%. So the Power Fantasy.
Nice. Okay, so according to the handy dandy spreadsheet, Vince, you start us off for number 7.
Yes.
In my number 7 spot is a book from Living the Line. Yes. And a publisher that you're not going to hear the last of. There's some foreshadowing. It's Kawashima Norikazu's Her Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was thinking it's a reprint. It's a rescue where, Ryan Holmberg and company are scouring the databanks for these manga that were sadly unrepresented in the States or non-existent. And I love that. That gets my allegiance very quickly when you're playing the role of archivist and a kind of tastemaker in this obscure, bizarro horror manga that very, very few people that speak English have ever seen. Captures my heart. But it would be one thing if that's the only, if the manga wasn't as good as Her Frankenstein actually was, like the Frankenstein legend transformed, just, I think it was masterfully done. There's panels in it that will stick in my mind pretty much forever. I cannot bestow enough superlatives on Living the Line and this book and others.
Living the Line is, again, listeners, not new listeners, know that we used to have a favorite publisher of the year. Living the Line certainly would have been in the running this year. Either way, they had a phenomenal year. I think we all were thrilled with pretty much all of their output and can't wait for their 2025 and have sung their praises, I think, justifiably. And I have to say, I've struck up a reasonably nice, working friendship with them as well, just because we appreciate their work so much. And I hope they're here for a long time to come because, as you said, Vince, they are curating
kicking some
really
ass.
Masterful stuff. And they're curating stuff that no one else is putting out, which is just really
no one else has seen this stuff.
That's what I mean. Exactly.
The Smudge imprint in particular, under which Her Frankenstein falls.
Yeah, big facts. Yeah. All right, Diggity Dap, you're up next.
I don't need to go too deep on this because Jason already talked about it. Number 7 is Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. Talked about it on episodes 907 and 915. Patrick Horvath is a talent to watch.
Nice. My man. My number 7 is a book I suspect is at least on one of your lists, if not both. So I guess I'm getting us off with it, and that is Absolute Wonder Woman written by Kelly Thompson with incredible art by Hayden Sherman with awesome colors by Jordi Belair. We have talked about this book quite a lot the last few months, deservedly so. It is, to my mind, the crown jewel of the Absolute imprint at DC, and that's been a really fun imprint overall. So that's high praise. I think it's been, just perfectly balances what you want from something like that, which is that it feels completely new, but doesn't feel like they're bastardizing in any way what makes the character of Wonder Woman great in the first place. And I just adore everything about it. So, Absolute Wonder Woman.
That's so cool.
Solid choice.
Yes, it is.
All right, word up. Diggity, you're up number 6.
Oh man, this is totally unplanned. Not a maybe it's a coincidence. The one book that pretty much was the reason it's not rated higher is because of a couple of crossovers. But my number 6 is Superman by Josh Williamson and a plethora of artists: Jamal Campbell, Bruno Redondo. You've got Dan Moore now with the current arc. You've got there's just been, we had the House of Brainiac crossover, and then we had the Absolute Power 3 issues, but then that brought us right into Superwoman and Doomsday / Time Trapper. So it's just been it's been solid. The year started off with wrapping up the Chain storyline and the Lex Luthor Revenge Squad. I've just been really I tend to say, I said this pretty much when Tomasi was on the book. Parts of Bendis' run on the book, but what Williamson is doing right now, and kind of what I was hoping to be getting with PKJ, but Williamson really does remind me with the characters, with the concepts, with the directions he's taking some things to the old Triangle era. So yes, Superman is one of the few, not only the few mainstream books, but one of the few DC books that I have to read in single issues when they come out.
Nice. Wouldn't be in a Clossers without you giving the Superman love. So
this is true.
He did see that. Okay, my number 6, again, I will keep this one short and sweet because my boy Dap already talked about it. Because my number 6 is The Power Fantasy by Kieran Gillen and Casper Wingard. Is it Wingard or I don't know if it's which is which, but yeah, listen, I have made it a personal goal of our show this year to have Kieran on the show at some point. I really do genuinely think he's one of the best in the business these days. I love pretty much everything he does, and I think, like we were talking about when we had that awesome Alan Moore conversation a few weeks ago, Kieran is one of those current writers that has shown an ability to write lots of different things in different genres and do them well. But I think that this book, the fact that we quote unquote only got 5 issues is why it probably isn't higher. But I think as a first arc, I'm completely enraptured and can't wait for more. So love everything about The Power Fantasy, which is why it's my number 6. Nice. So Vinny Goombats, it's you're up with number 6.
This book, like a truffle, was a rare find that I didn't know I needed. It's another one from Living the Line Smudge imprint, written and illustrated by Shirakawa Marina. It's the UFO Mushroom Invasion. Bonkers, out of control, yes. Left field craziness. The Adamski UFO makes an appearance. If one of the things I pride myself on is my knowledge of UFO lore, and when someone else drops the Adamski UFO in a book, I'm just like, God damn, brother, where have you been all my life? It's just crazy and dark and disturbing, with a little bit of science along the way. Like, you'll learn something from UFO Mushroom Invasion, maybe. At the very least, you'll be super entertained and shocked and really shook, because it's one of those books that dances on a lot of keys, and it's a minor chord to be sure, but it is just a beautiful book with the Ryan Holmberg framing essay. Like that, I need him to just come to my house once a week. I'll feed him. I'll give him drinks and everything. Talk to me about manga, Ryan. Tell me a story about the stuff that I don't know about, and where it came from, and who made it, and what the culture and the publishing industry, and just what the era was like when this thing was published. Like, it's just crazy how much this guy knows. And I love him. I love him so much.
Yep. This is a great illustration of what I think why it was such an amazingly deep year, because, I mean, full disclosure, neither Her Frankenstein nor UFO Mushroom Invasion are even in my honorable mentions, but I love both of those books. I think they're both
super.
Great.
They're very, very strong books.
Yep. Okay, I think I start us off with number 5, so we're halfway there. Living on a prayer. My number 5. Yeah, I know. My number 5 is Dynamite Diva: The Engine Whispers, written and drawn by Jasper Jubenville, self-published. Been a fan of Dynamite Diva since we first discovered it many years ago. I love to watch young creators evolve, and I think that as an illustrator, Dynamite Diva: Engine Whispers is another step forward for Jasper, just again in terms of the line work. But importantly, like all the other versions we've gotten of Diva, this is just batshit crazy. I mean, it's a story about, a one-eyed, bisexual ass-kicking woman who avenges the death of her stripper girlfriend by, tracking down a serial killer who drives a devil-possessed taxi. I mean, it's just amazing. It's super violent, super sexy, super funny. It's the kind of thing I love in comics. I wish we got more of. And I hope Jasper keeps putting out stories for decades to come. So, Dynamite Diva: The Engine Whispers.
That's good.
Interesting. Yes.
Dap is up next.
And so, to bring the top 5, I went with a funky book that I finally read this year. All 9 issues, because we got a few of them this year, and this is after Jason talked it up, and I finally got around to it, and I'm kicking myself for taking so long, because it probably would have been on my classrooms last year. But making up for lost time, from Greg Rucka and Eric Troutman, art by Mike Henderson, colors by Nolan Woodward. It is The Forged from Image Comics.
My man.
Wow, that's high. Number 5 is
my man.
Yes.
My dog. You know
this is why, but this is why, because of the crossovers, this is why it switched with Superman, because these 9 issues have just been consistent, bam, one after another. They've been fantastic. Superman, obviously, you've had the interruptions. Not that they've been glaring, but they're there. So yeah, I had to make some concessions. But yeah, The Forge, absolutely. It's an easy top 10 pick, but once the dust settled, I was quite happy. I was going to say gleeful to see it top 5. And it was discussed on episodes 905 and 950.
Love it.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry.
My number 5 just cracks my skull open, and it's just baffling that this book is at number 5 in my list. Mm-hmm. Because any other year, if the year was not nearly as strong as it was, this book would be my number 1 pick. But I'm gobsmacked that I think all the ones that follow it are there are things about the ones that follow that I find better, resonate more with me. But this one should be number 1. It's crazy. It's from the New York Review Comics by Dash Shaw. It's Blurry. Blurry should be the book of the year. It is an amazing achievement. The narrative is like a chaos star, where you have these tendrils that spew from a central point, and all these stories just trail off in their own little direction. But at the end of the book, they all dovetail and they come back to that center. And it's like, oh my God, how the frig did you pull this off? It's insane. The book is exceptionally well done. I love Dash Shaw's cartooning. So I read everything that the man puts out. I've read everything he's ever done. I think he's very, very special. But this Blurry, this is even an achievement for Dash Shaw. And it should be number 1, but it's only number 5, which is telling you something. Yeah.
Love it. For the record, the meta compilation that that I do to help everybody kind of like see what's out there. Blurry was number 2 on the year. I think there ultimately were like a little over 30 different lists that I compiled together, and Blurry was number 2, just barely to another book, which I assume we'll be talking about down the road. But it was certainly widely considered one of the best books of the year for sure. Okay, so we are up to number 4, and because I screwed up that last round, Vince, you actually start us number 4, and then Dap goes, and then I go. So I didn't intend for that, but sorry, but you are back to back. Sorry, it wasn't intentional, but
it's okay. In number 4, it is the adventures of Zaha Sanko and his magic bones that will grant a wish to those that manage to procure them. It is Die Dark by Q Hayashida.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, what do you mean? Oh, yeah. Jesus.
Well, I just haven't read it yet.
This book is a smack in the face. It is unlike anything out there. Yep. The dark Peggy Nagaroon, this backpack that actually talks and helps out Sanko, and the freaking meat switch, the spaghetti meatball sandwich. Like there's a foodie aspect to this book. There's an exceptionally dark undercurrent of murder and death and revival, and the people in charge who claim to be from the light are anything but. And best of all, it's done by a woman.
Yes.
It's crazy. Shatter those expectations, my lady. I think Q Hayashida is one of the strongest comics makers out there right now. Just because the drawing is great, but it's just so dark and multi-layered and just exceptionally well done that it's amazing. Die Dark, number 4.
Nice.
Should be number 1.
Oh my God.
I'm seeing a theme here.
Yeah, it's crazy. But you're going to laugh because everything after this, you're going to be like, yeah, it should be number 1.
No doubt.
Kudos to you for not doing with Living the Line and Smudge what you did with Ghost Machine. So I'm glad you're able to at least.
I can't do that. No, because those books were very different.
I know.
And they were created by different people.
Yes.
More or less.
Look at you making rules.
No, more or less, Johns is driving the Ghost Machine bus.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I will say, even though we haven't gotten there, haven't seen a list. If Jeff Johns isn't on your top 5 creators, something's amiss.
Mayhap.
Okay, we'll find out about it. Dap, you're up with number 5 or number 4. Sorry, we're
number 4. Number 4 was already brought up. Thank you, Jason. This is Absolute Wonder Woman.
There we go.
By Kelly Thompson and Hayden Sherman and Jordi Belair. It is. I know it. Again, not with the rules. We did only have 3 issues, but every issue is a gift. I cannot contain my excitement for this series. As soon as I know an issue, whatever else is out that week, if that issue drops, that's the first thing that's getting read. It's everything I love about comics, and we've gushed about it. We will continue to gush about it. Issue 4 is coming out soon enough, so you'll hear about it soon. The 3 issues we talked about on 953, 958, and 962. So you don't have to go back very far to hear us talk about it. If for some reason it's not on your list, but yeah, there you go. Number 4, Absolute Wonder Woman.
FYI, party pooper that I am, I don't have any DC on my list.
Well, let me ask Dap. Without you spoiling your top 3. Would Absolute Wonder Woman, was it quote unquote only number 4 because of just being 3 issues? Because that's why it was number 7 for me. Like if we had gotten 5 or 6 issues of this, I could have been much higher for me. It just 3 issues. I was like, okay, well we've only got 3, so I'm gonna put it a little lower, even though I thought every issue was incredible.
It wasn't it that did play a part. It's number 4 because yes, we did only get 3 based on the way everything else. Because not that there's recency bias involved, but obviously Beneath the Trees was earlier in the year.
Sure.
The Power Fantasy is basically similar to it. It's only 2 issues ahead. So yeah, it's part of it is just because I I do enjoy it that much. And there's an honorable mention that I'll explain why that's only an honorable mention and not on this list. But yeah, they're definitely there was some configuring that went into it.
So you're both kind of quantity queens, is what you're saying.
We're size queens. We've always been size queens.
A little bit.
I don't know. The last couple of picks
don't spoil your own picks.
I'm not. But yeah.
Okay. My number 4, and sorry, Vince, because I mean, one of us had to be the first to mention this, but written and drawn by Taiyo Matsumoto. It is Tokyo These Days, published by Viz. We talked about this a lot. Vince was the first to talk about it, but then I got caught up. I don't remember, Vince, did we get all 3 U.S. volumes this year? I know we got 2 at least. Did we?
No, we got all 3. Yes.
We got all 3, yeah. So we got 3 hardcover, beautiful volumes of this magical manga that was complete. And, again, we've talked about this at length, but this is just, to me, maybe because I turned 50, I don't know, but just slice of life done perfectly. I mean, seeing a window into these people's lives and, most notably, then obviously being a lot about publishing and creating comics and just everything about this book spoke to me on some level. And it was illustrated beautifully. I just really thought this was as close to perfect comics as possible. And I know people are listening to saying, well, why is it number 4? Well, because I think it was an incredible year and there's 3 other books that I loved as much. But I just think this is great. And I'm low-key sad that we're not going to get any more. But in a world where I don't reread many things over again, I absolutely see myself rereading this in the next few years. I think it's just a magical experience. Anyone that's old enough to have some kind of perspective on sort of life and the journey and appreciating what you have, but also wanting to take a chance on yourself to have more, this book is for you. So just incredible work. And I thank you for putting me on this. But Tokyo These Days by Taiyo Matsumoto.
Love it.
Sounds good.
All right, we're up to number 3, and the King starts us off.
Ooh. Well, since we're in the let's give Vince's flowers moment of the podcast, I ran through a bunch of chapters earlier in the year and then paused it and then went back at it and sadly am current. But my number 3.
Damn, current shit.
I am current. My number 3 is Dandadan.
Damn, current on Dandadan. That's respect.
Look at that shit.
Respect.
Wow.
That's tremendous.
By Nobutatsu, it is just I cannot wait for I haven't
Nice.
I haven't slid into Vince's DMs to find out where volume 9 left off, so I don't know how far ahead I may be. So we're not. We'll discuss that later. But yeah, and also on a side note, stepson came over on Saturday and we binged a bunch of episodes. Watched I already watched the first 2, but we got through the first 6 or 7.
Tell me you watched 7. Tell me you watched 7.
I watched them all. I watched them all. I watched all 12.
Okay. I haven't seen 7 yet. Oh, wait, no, I haven't seen it. No, I'm sorry, I have seen it. I've seen 3. So.
Okay. A little bit of inside baseball. I teach a class on animation for the illustrator. The current project is to design and illustrate your own yokai. So I thought, I'll let them watch Dandadan. And I showed them episode 7 tonight.
Oh, nice.
50% of the class was in tears.
I love it.
Yep.
I love it.
Including Mia.
That's great.
Yeah, Mia was in tears.
Oh, Mia's taking the class?
Yep.
Love it.
Tell us that. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah, I'm telling you now. Yeah, I think episode
Thanks for sharing
7
your life with us.
is one of the all-time strongest episodes of an anime ever. It's
Love
masterful.
It. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, 7 is masterful.
Yeah, not that we're talking about, but yes, I agree that the anime is incredible. I think kudos to Netflix is they've been doing a great job with the animation these days.
True that.
That episode was. I mean, that's one of the chapters where it's heart wrenching.
It is. It'll break.
Yeah,
I told them before I showed it to them that this episode will rip your heart out. Step on it, drag it through the dirt, lick it a little, and stick it back in your chest. That's exactly what it does.
what I
doesn't
love
make
about
any
the
sense,
show
but-
is that it actually he does a great job in the manga, and you get the feeling, and you see the expressions, but seeing it actually animated and play out, whether it's Gigi's bouncing off the walls or just watching some of the yokai's backstory, the way they're totally separate and both equally touching, and it's fantastic. But yeah, I absolutely it's a great series. The manga's fantastic. As I'm going through the list and I was finalizing it, this really had no other place to be but number 3.
Nice. And the end scroll of Dan to Dan, when the Turbo Granny cat is playing around with the kitten, they don't explain that in the show yet.
No, they don't.
No,
And it's
they don't.
and it's
Right.
only this little bonus feature in one of the Tankoban, but it renders Turbo Granny in such a beautiful light that you're thinking, this despicable creature that stole the main character's testicles actually has a heart. But we knew that. We knew that from, the girls back in her chapter. But yeah, and I told them, I said, you're missing an entire story here. They don't explain it. And they're just like, okay, well, I guess we'll read it. I'm like, oh yes. My number 3 is.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's,
And
it's my turn, Vince.
The tease I mentioned earlier, Dan to Dan has only been mentioned on episode 957 this year,
That's crazy.
according to show notes.
Okay.
Did you make it one word because I'm an idiot and I broke it up to Dan?
Yeah, I did.
It's one word, yeah.
I have it as one word, but I did.
Capital
It's-
D's,
it-
all capital.
it-
All
it's-
capital D's, I believe.
But see, that's what pisses me off. It is one word, but it's not one word.
So
In some
I did a
places
search.
it's 3.
It's
Yeah.
Dan with capital D's, I believe. But
and
hate that
I did a search for Dan on the website, and of course for 2024, Dan to Dan shows up twice. Dan Mora is like half a dozen times.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Who dat?
unrelated, but in the spirit of the karma, since you just said Dan, shout out to Dan T. We love you.
yes,
So much.
cheers.
Yes, for sure. Okay, I am up with my number 3, and again, it shouldn't be a surprise for those of you that know me that be on the list. And that is The Sacrificers by Rick Remender,
wow.
Max Fiumara, and Dave McKay.
Fantastic.
Listen, Rick is one of my all-time favorite writers. You all know. I own, I think, 10 or 11 pages of this book, the art. I will probably own plenty more. Definitely my favorite fantasy series of the year. And I'm not surprised. I don't think it'll be on your list. Full spoilers. It's not on the listeners' list. So it's more of a personal thing. But I just thought, I love Remender. I read everything he makes. But for me, this is one of my favorites that he's done. I think it's got a lot of heart. I think Fiumara is just on a whole other level visually. I just think the work he's putting out is just stupid. For those that haven't read it or listened to our discussions of it, it's a fantasy story that's in a world where there's lots of anthropomorphic races, including orca whales, which for me just makes it all the more special. So I think it's incredible, and I love every bit of it. And I hope they tell me that we're going to get 30 plus issues of it. I hope that's the case, because it'll likely be on my list again next year. So yeah, and again, I know this is very much a Woodrow pick, probably not consensus, but I adore the book very much. So
I fucked up on my 4th one, now that I think about it. Nagaroon isn't Sanko's Paggy. It's Damimaro's Paggy. Avakian is Zaha Sanko's Paggy. So I fucked that up. But I'm acknowledging that I fucked it up. And I'm telling you that my number 3 pick... I'm telling you that my number 3 pick was Dan to Dan.
okay.
Yep.
Wow, number 3 for both of y'all. Look at
That's what I'm
that.
saying. Smart men.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And you know what? I'm a little bit embarrassed because I really think The Sacrificers is great, but it's not on my top 10 and it's not on my honorable mentions.
That's okay.
Same.
No, but what does that say? That's
But
crazy.
dude, I think it speaks to what an amazing year it was, because honestly,
Exactly.
again, like I think Living the Line, everything they put out this year, I read and enjoyed. And we talked about on the show, and I genuinely thought that your two, like Her Frankenstein, UFO Motion River, are both great books. I loved reading them, and yet they weren't on my honorable mention. So it's just that kind of year, dude. It's just you
Yeah.
know that's why I like this format. I mean, I think it's going to highlight. Hopefully, it's highlighting lots and lots of books in ways that we hadn't previously been able to highlight because we had to be pigeonholed in the categories. You know?
Lots and lots. You're right.
Lots and lots. Okay, so well, Dan is your number 3. Okay, we're on to number 2, and I start us off to keep it going. Another book, which again should neither be a surprise is on my list, but also I would be stunned if it's on either of yours. My number 2 pick is The Road, a graphic novel adaptation written and drawn by Manu Larsenet, published by Abrams. Of course, this is an adaptation of Cormac McCarthy's book, which is one of my 5 favorite books of all time. I will likely at some point have a tattoo in homage to it on my body. Yeah, I think we've gotten lots of adaptations of prose, over the years in the comics. Many of them have been good, some not so much. I think this was as close to a perfect interpretation of the source material as I've ever seen. It was impeccable in every way. Again, this is a story that means a ton to me, and so I thought when I saw that it was coming, it could have easily been a disappointment to me, much like, say, like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy movie was to me. But honestly, I thought they hit it out of the park. I wouldn't change a thing about the graphic novel. I think it's perfect. And,
See, there's a problem with this because you weren't on the episode that Dap and I talked about it.
I wasn't. No. I don't think I listened to it either. I don't know what you guys thought.
Right. No, we loved it. And so when you knew that we talked about it, you kind of hesitated to speak on it at length.
Oh,
so
right.
we kind of did you a disservice by talking about it before you were on the episode. So it's not a surprise that it's on your list. It's a surprise that it's that high. Like, I thought it was wonderful, but
it's just because
number 2?
The source material means so much to me. I mean,
I get it. I get it.
And it looks great. It's a beautiful book.
It does, but it's fucking downbeat. Like,
yes, it is.
It is terribly morose.
Which is exactly why I want a tattaoo of it on my body.
What are you going to get, a cannibal?
No, like something of like a father-son kind of like, like graphic. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, but that does not end well.
Anyway, the thing is that I think it meant so much to me and why it's so high because the other form of it, the original form, means so much to me. Generally speaking, like when something's adapted into another version, I'm generally like disappointed in it because how could it possibly compare? Like
right?
Because someone else's vision of something isn't going to be mine doesn't mean it's bad. It's just not my vision. And so again, for me, like I've never met Manu Larsen. Seems like a cool dude. He's a French dude, all tatted up. But like, dude and I think of the book in the same way. Like, I think the beats, because when you're doing a graphic novel, you have to pick moments of a prose book and forget a lot of the prose. I mean, that's a necessity.
Yeah.
And I think he hit on every key moment of that novel. I mean, I've read that novel 6-7 times, and like I felt like as I was turning the pages of this OGN, like I'm like, holy shit, like he captured that moment, and then like he would skip over a lot of what I would think is, and then you like get to that next moment. It's like he understood the book. Like he understood what Cormac was going for in the book, and he understood the moments that you had to emphasize. And I haven't sat down and done like my favorite ever adaptations of works I care about in other forms, but like this would have to be high on even that, like a short list of any type of thing. So yeah, I mean, again, like I said, I don't think this book would be. Well, this book wasn't, that high on the meta list, and I wouldn't expect it to be on your guys' list. But for me, just because of the personal nature of the source material, I thought it was perfect comics.
Nice. It is very good.
And you, sir, are up with number 2.
Interesting. Well, this book was a powerhouse. We all spoke on it gushingly, and it's from Pantheon by Charles Burns. It is Final Cut.
Yes.
Ridiculous book. Yeah.
Perfect comics. See, your point about your number 5, you're like, it should be number 1. Like, I think there were like 10 to 15 books this year that objectively are like perfect comics. Like, they can be no better. Yeah.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you want to hear what we said about Final Cut, I'm sure one of these jamokes will tell you what episode we went deep on it.
951 and 952.
There you go.
Nice.
Thank
Well,
you.
Dap, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is the only Silver Sprocket book on my list, and I believe the only Silver Sprocket book mentioned so far.
Yes.
This is the one that just hit me hard and stuck with me, and that is from Leo Fox and Boy Island.
Wow.
Discussed on episode 948, which was pretty much a Silver Sprocket-orama. It's your name is Lucille, you live on Girl Island, and it goes from there. And it is, if you have questions, if you if you want to maybe try to understand what people are going through, I think Leo does a phenomenal job trying to get that pain and anguish and acceptance, and it's a very it's a heavy book, and it's something that I am glad exists, and it should definitely be something to check out for those who are curious and want to know more. But yeah, I'm glad Silver Sprocket exists. I'm glad they were able to publish things like this, and it had to be on my list somewhere. But the more I thought about it and it went through my head, it just kept creeping up on the list further and further.
Yeah, it's a great book.
I'm legit gobsmacked though. Like that's number 2. Like I'm loving it. I'm much love to you. I would never have
I get that.
guessed. Yeah, I would have never guessed it would have been number 2, which is awesome. Like that's why I'm loving this whole form, because like I haven't taken issue with any of your guys' picks, even though a lot of them aren't like on my list, like, which is great. But it seems fitting for both the year and like the show and what we talked about, and makes all the sense in the world.
Well, we did say that ridicule was on the table, but I haven't had it. We did. I haven't had
yeah,
it.
after my pick, you fucking asshole.
No, I didn't. But unless Dap's pick is the book that I would 100% ridicule, I haven't found an opportunity to throw any.
I agree. I
Any
keep
score in
waiting
your
to
day.
cast side at you bitches, but I haven't.
There's still a chance though, because
real talk. I almost cast side on Superman because it's like, but like it's Dap, so like of course he loves.
no,
Superman.
you would expect that. You would expect that he would
would.
love Superman.
I just
And-
thought like 6. Like I thought like it'd be on there as 10. Like just be like because I love Superman.
No. Well, we'll see what his number 1 is.
Well, no, listen, if Mora wasn't
That's
on
true.
it for the end of the year, then by all means, yeah, it probably would have been 10 or 11. But yeah, no, it
true.
it ended the year strong. We haven't finished that story
Yeah.
arc, but
Right.
it's
And I can't front because I mean, as someone who has openly identified as a non-Superman fan over the years, I mean, I've continued to read Superman every month, so it's been very good.
Yeah, it did manage to suck me back in as well.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
So there you go.
Okay, so we are up to our number 1 picks, y'all. Our favorite books of the year, and we always let age before beauty. So Vince, you get to start us off.
Well, now my number 2
Based
was,
on what your number 2 was, I know
my number 2 was Final Cut.
Yes,
And I have to say, the distance between number 1 and number 2 is the Earth to the Moon. There is a
really?
massive void between these two
see,
books.
that's interesting. Because
I
I
think-
thought you said it was tight.
No, it was not tight at all. This book,
Wow. Okay.
without question, I think this book is a flamethrower. It just incinerated everything else that came out in 2024. It is a book that is told from the vantage point of loving artistic creation, to the
Yeah.
point where a person risks everything just to produce art that they think needs to be produced, to allow those who have produced art one more chance at capturing the attention of the populace. It's Taiyo Matsumoto's Tokyo these days. It was
Yeah.
the absolute best thing produced in 2024 in my estimation. Nothing even comes close. Like, I want to cry how good this series is.
Yeah. Now you're making me feel bad about making it 4 because, like, I don't even disagree with
Well,
what
you
you're saying.
suck.
I think it was.
I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, see, that's hurtful. That doesn't even have him on his list
Well, he sucks times 10 then.
because I know it ain't his number 1. Just
You never-
I'm reading it. I gotta
You
get the
never know.
volumes.
You never know. No, I think it's a magic combination of a story that resonates with not only people that create, but it takes in the comic book industry and aging creators that are just trying to reclaim. There's no pride or hubris involved in it. They just want to make art, and the visuals are as powerful as the narrative. It's just ridiculous, man. It is. I could live to 300 years old, and I would never be able to produce something as beautiful as this book.
Sure. The thing is I think like being able to make magic out of the mundane, right? Like, I mean, because it's basically a story about regular people living their lives.
It is.
To be able to do that in a way that like draws in so many people is just magic. It's like it's almost impossible, right? Because like one of the great things about comics is that it's illustrated, so you can do like, $5 billion of special effects without having to have that kind of budget. But like, so then to just do this quiet story about a few people and their normal lives and like make it resonate to fucking people all over the world is just like, it's fucking alchemy. And I'm with you.
Kazuo is so much like me because I get in these moods where I'm just like, fuck it, I'm getting rid of everything. Like that scene where he's like, I'm getting rid of all my manga, everything, just take everything. And as the person is looking through his manga, he's like, maybe not that one. No, I want to, like, I've made a big mistake. I don't want to sell any of this. Like, I'm very impulsive. I connect with Kazuo the most out of this series in that. For many reasons, but I also connect with Shosaku. This overweight, doesn't take care of himself, is like smokes like a motherfucker, eats all the wrong stuff. And I would not like this person, but he has such a overpowering love for his daughter. And it's insane to me that that kind of emotion, like you could tell he still has feelings for his his wife, that they're separated, and he can't bring himself to just open up. It's an amazing, amazing book. If you haven't read it, just read it. Tokyo these days. It's only 3 volumes. It's not going to kill you.
It's incredible.
It is.
Incredible.
It is.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can't argue with you. All right, Dap, you're number 1, dog. What you got?
Number 1. This is for Vince. Actually, I do want to know what would have been the book.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you.
Okay.
Hopefully it's not this one, but I'll tell you.
I know, me too.
Hopefully not. They're all pins and needles. This was the book that I was the last one of us to read, and that's because I finally picked it up at New York Comic Con. It's Charles Burns' Final Cut.
Oh, nice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I can't front
that. Nah, word up.
Yeah, it's which is how I knew those were the episodes that we talked it up. But yeah,
nice.
Well, you guys talked. This was I couldn't put it down. I started and when done with it. It sucked me in. It's gorgeous. It's fascinating. I got my little book plate. He signed it. I'm a
little jelly that you got that.
I like I like fine. It's a gorgeous presentation, and the story itself is just. I mean, oh my god, yeah. No,
I'll be totally honest with you. The only reason why Final Cut wasn't my number 1 is because that's Charles Burns doing what Charles Burns does.
Sure.
That's not that. I mean,
I would ask you though, and I'm not disagreeing with you anyway. But I would ask you though, how do we know that that's not Taiyo Matsumoto doing what Taiyo?
Because I've read a lot of Matsumoto stuff. It's
fair enough.
It's all heartfelt, but they're very different.
That's your answer.
Books. Yes,
this was my first exposure to him. So
yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm actually surprised by Dap's number 1 pick because I didn't even know he'd really read it, but that's great. And I guess I get the honor of going last year with my number 1. And, of course, I mean, no surprise since I haven't mentioned it yet. My number 1 pick is also Final Cut.
Nice.
By Charles Burns.
So we have 2 categories that we were in sync. Not all of us, 2 of us.
Yeah, I mean, and you guys have already kind of, I mean, listen, we've talked about this book a lot, but I genuinely said on the episode where we talked about it that it was, to me, a perfect comic, and I meant that. I just think that it's, and I actually did reread it, because I was sort of my top 4, I was really kind of wrestling with, like, how to rank those 4. So I did go back and reread Final Cut, and I thought, no, this is it, man. Like, I just think, I don't know, like, I just think it's, and the narrative of it makes me love it even more, like that Burns, hadn't really put out a comic in a long time, and then he had this incredible, and didn't just put out this, put out 2 other works too, but like the whole thing. And I just thought that, I mean, listen, we don't need to, we all loved it, and it was,
Yes.
no lower than number 2 on any of our lists. So, and I will say that, again, this is we'll get to our listeners' votes, but among that meta list of compilation where I took all the other lists I could find, Final Cut was the one thing that did Blurry. It was pretty much the runaway pick. It was on almost every list in some form or fashion, and was the number 1 book of the year per the industry, if you will. But I think
year to be
deservedly
Charles
so.
Burns.
Great year, and I would also, like I said with Kieran Gillen, I would love to have Burns on the show, but I think that's probably a much harder get. So
Yeah,
I'm not gonna promise that, but it would be great if we could do it.
Nice.
So
I think we all produce
fantastic, boys.
super solid lists. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to run through the list real quick. And before we get to the listeners, we'll start with the king from 10 to 1. Petrolhead, If You Find This, I'm Already Dead. The Power Fantasy, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. Superman, The Forged, Absolute Wonder Woman, Don Da Don, Boy Island, and Final Cut. Vince's top 10: Ice Cream Man, Future, The Ghost Machine books because he's a cheater. Her Frankenstein, UFO Mushroom Invasion, Blurry, Die Dark, Don Da Don, Final Cut, and Tokyo These Days. In my top 10, Don't Let Go, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, I Am Their Silence, Absolute Wonder Woman, The Power Fantasy, Dynamite Divas, The Engine Whispers, Tokyo These Days, The Sacrificers, The Road, and Final Cut.
Nice.
So nicely done, boys. I think all these books are very apropos, very great books, and apropos of our personal years. So nicely done. Okay, so I am going to read off. So I have, as I said, I don't know if it's good because I don't know how Vince edits the show. I'm going to publish this stuff on the. I'm going to put this stuff on the website, the Patreon, and the Slack in sort of article form. So I'm going to actually end up putting out a top 100 list for you lovely listeners, because you all did, like I said, I was super thrilled with the turnout and the diversity. So there was a broad enough set of votes that I'm going to do a top 100 for y'all. But obviously tonight we're not going to do that. I'm just going to read off your top 10 per what we said we would do, and you'll have to tune into the other channels that we have for the rest. But the listeners' consensus number 10 book of the year was Birds of Prey by Kelly Thompson, Leonardo Romero, Jordi Belair, and others. And it actually was on 18.6% of all the lists, meaning that somebody voted for it on their top 10, right? It could have been their 1, it could have been their 10. Yeah. Number 9, because they're not cheaters, is Redcoat. Actually picked a specific book for Ghost Machine
They're not cheating.
by Jeff Johns and Brian Hitch.
You're a jerk.
Funny.
Yeah.
True.
Well, that's the one to pick. That's the one to pick.
Oh, there you go. Appearing on 19.8% of all ballots. Number 8, because, well, a lot of you just aren't cultured enough to read graphic novels, is The Final Cut by Charles Burns. It was on 17.
8.
Yeah, crazy. It was on 17.4% of lists, and I'm going to assume that's because only 17.4% of voters read the book. That's the only way that makes sense.
Yeah.
Number 7, in similar fashion, was Tokyo These Days by Taiyo Matsumoto. Also on 17.4% of ballots. So, again, a situation where just probably not enough of you took our advice and read the book. Number 6, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, Patrick Horvath, writer and artist, was on 20.9% of ballots. Getting into the top 5, your number 5 book among you all was Absolute Wonder Woman by Kelly Thompson, Hayden Sherman, and Jordi Belair.
That's
on
nice.
that was actually on 19.8% of ballots. So interestingly, it was on fewer ballots than Beneath the Trees, but obviously it got a higher ranking per ballot. Number 4, and this is where I'm going to side-eye you. Like Vince said, side-eyeing is allowed tonight.
Absolutely.
Yeah, respect to y'all. Like, your voice counts. That's why we're reading it. But, your number 4 was Ultimate Spider-Man by Jonathan Hickman, Marco Gicchetto, and Matt Wilson. 20.9% of ballots. Now, in your defense, listeners, that was the number 5 book in the meta compilation as well. The top 5 in the meta compilation were Final Cut, Blurry, Sunday, which none of us talked about tonight, Transformers, and Ultimate Spider-Man. So, you're clearly not off base relative to the broader comics populace, but I expected a bit better of you. as our crew.
You have forgotten the face of your fathers.
For real. Do you listen to our show? In number 3 position, which I think is equally surprising considering it didn't even sniff any of our lists, was Batman Superman World's Finest.
That's a good book,
It's
though.
it's a fantastic book. It was, I think it was my favorite superhero book of 2023, so I'm not like fronting on that one as much. Mark Waid, Dan Mora, and Tamara Bonvillain are the primary, the primary contributors there. I think there were a few fill-in art issues this year, but generally speaking, it was Mark Waid and Dan Mora. Your number 2 book, which is actually like gobsmackingly surprising, it's not Absolute Wonder Woman, it's Wonder Woman.
That makes sense.
By Tom King, Daniel Sampere, and Tomu More. I think it's a great book. Don't get me wrong. But I am surprised that Absolute Wonder Woman didn't make the list, but Wonder Woman made the number 2 spot, and that actually was on 27.9% of ballots. So it was not an a couple people just ranking it number 1. And your number 1 book, which again none of us even mentioned, but I'm not actually that surprised it's your number 1 book because you all worship at the altar of this gentleman, and that is Transformers. By Daniel Warren Johnson, Jorge Corona, and Mike Spicer. By far and away, I mean, this one actually ran away with the number 1 pick, just for the record. It outscored the number 2 pick by over 100 points, and it was on 33% of the ballot. So 1 out of 3 of you had it on your ballot. Great book, right? Like, we all loved it. So again, I have nothing really I'm not going to criticize you for it, but yeah, your number 1 book was Transformers. So kudos to y'all.
There you go.
Okay.
All right, so up next in our second part of the episode is our and it'll be a little bit quicker. Our top 5 creators of the year.
Wow, we were supposed to do this?
Oh, stop! Oh, stop! You're such a scamp. 1 second here. Hold on. I'm gonna just copy the rotation so I don't screw it up again this time. Okay, starting us off with their number 5 creator of the year is The King.
Number 5, and man, it sucks that we only had to choose 5, is Hayden Sherman for Into the Unbeing Part 1. Of course, Absolute Wonder Woman, that one issue of Batman Dark Patterns, but he also did a short story. He did one of the stories in Spider-Man, the anthology, the black suit, white and red or whatever the hell it was called, but he just constantly changes up his style depending on the story, constantly improves. What we saw years ago, whether it was Chicken Devils or Above Snakes, is different than what he's doing on Absolute Wonder Woman. I just adore the line, and he
can't argue with that.
No,
I doubt he'll be number 5 this time, Nick.
I wish there was the opportunity to scorn, but there's not. So
agreed.
Yeah.
My number 5, and full disclosure, all of mine are writer artists. They all did everything with their books.
Nice.
Is Patrick Horvath, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. Just totally never heard of the dude until this year, and totally enraptured by what he did. So
my number 5, which is absolutely unheard of because I doubt that this man has ever managed to crack any of my lists. My number 5 is Jeff Johns.
I knew it.
Yes. It would be so sus of you to not have him on your list.
It just boggles. I'm baffled at the showing that Johns.
How fun is that, though? Right?
It is. Yeah. No, and I think it speaks a lot to my ability to just throw preconceived notions on the back burner, and because I've read a lot of Jeff Johns stuff and I've enjoyed them, but I've never considered him a writer of the kind of power that he brought to the books this year.
It's interesting because
I was totally spellbound by all the books that he made in 2020.
It's fascinating because I think you may or may not remember this, but I consider Jeff Johns my gateway into DC.
Because of JSA.
His Teen Titans and JSA. He happened to be writing those at the time when I, was like, I'm going to start reading some BC, and I love them both, and I just, the rest is history. But yeah, I can't front on that pick at all. yeah, I mean, I think, and I think he, like a resurgent time, right? Because like he had gone away and done movies and TV more for DC, and I think he's still doing some of that. But like and then he had done obviously the like the before Watchmen stuff. But yeah, no, I think it's it would have been a shocking thing to not hear his name on your list this year.
The books are fun. There's a shared history in some of them. There's a potential for crossover that we've seen. There's a horror book. There's a family sci-fi book, and it's just the Ghost Machine books are just aflame, and I'm glad that I can put Jeff Johns on my list.
Yeah, and shout out before we go on to our number 4. Shout out to our longtime friend and listener and patron Mitchell, because dude came on to the Slack when the Absolute books and the Ghost Machine books were announced, and he was like psyched about both. And I think we're kind of like, we'll see. Like, it's just another,
right?
And like he was right on both. He was right on both. Like both were bangers. Two of the better things to happen in 2024, at least comics. So.
Well, 2/3 of Absolute, yeah.
Yeah, well, again, you don't have to be a hater, dude.
I'm sorry.
Be a hater. It's about celebrating tonight. Okay. Okay, number 4, I start us off. Again, my picks are all Reddit creators. My number 4 is Jordi LaFabre. He, of course, of I Am Their Silence. Love the dude. I could look at his art all the time. I've spoken to him several times about getting a commission, but being that he's like a successful standalone European creator, his commissions are crazy. He wanted $5,000, so... Hasn't happened yet, but maybe someday.
How much is the commissions?
Well, he doesn't generally do commissions. But
wait, did you say 25,000?
No,
5,000. 5 with a 5.
Oh, 5. I thought you said 25,000. I'm like, holy crap.
5,000. 5,000.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Okay.
But either way, his art is I just think his art is enchanting, and I loved this book this year.
I think you're enchanting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, you're up with your number 4.
My number 4 is Q Hayashida Daidark.
Can you spell that for me? For my
Hayashida. Just the letter Q for the first name.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, Daidark.
I just adore the way she draws.
Mm-hmm.
And the
she's
icing on the
too, right? Like she's like a real petite woman, right?
Oh yeah. But the ice and it's so gritty and just I don't want to say dark, but it is. But the watercolor pages are just amazing. They're so disturbingly murky and icky, and it's like you're trying to look through a pus smeared window. It's amazing.
Nice.
She's speaking my visual language.
Yeah, she is. That side.
That's like
So my number 4 is Jeff Johns.
woo!
Wow!
Shit.
For
Holy
Ghost
shit.
Machine, for Geiger, for Rook Exodus, for Redcoat, for Hyde Street. Yeah,
Wow.
it's just been. I looked over
you know what?
everybody.
I'm leaving him at 5. I'm not switching it because you're right. For you, yeah, I'm guessing 4 would be great. I'm wow.
Respect.
Yeah, this is surprising.
I love being surprised because I feel like we know each other so well. It's hard to surprise.
I didn't even think he would make Dap's list, and yet
Me neither.
Here we go.
Well,
How Florida are you gonna be how Florida are you gonna be when he's my number 1?
You know what it was? It's Redcoat. He had to put it on there for Redcoat.
Oh, 100%.
Yes.
It was the whole
Simon-
Einstein art.
Simon
100%.
Pure.
Yeah.
Simon Pure.
Yeah, it had to be.
There
Had to
you
be.
go. That's it. All right, Vince, you're up number 3, dog.
Number 3, Yukinobu Tatsu. What?
I mean,
Dude.
you want to remind people?
Dan to Dan. What?
Yeah,
I know,
Yes.
but you got it. Like again, you can't.
But this is the problem I told you we were going to run into when we do a top 5. The top 5 inevitably has to mirror, with maybe an exception of Jeff Johns. It has to
But
kind of
people
mirror.
still might not process that name with the title. They still
Okay,
might not
Yukinobu
process it.
Tatsu, Dan to Dan.
Thank you.
If you're not reading it, I'll just be honest, you're stupid.
Wow, I guess I'm an
Seriously,
idiot.
I'm reading it. I mean,
I mean, I am reading it, but I'm like way behind. I'm like
No,
halfway
but
through the series, so.
you acknowledge, right?
Oh yeah, but I'm like halfway through. Is what I'm saying. Yeah. Okay.
I shouldn't call the
But
listener
there were no-
stupid. That's not.
there were no Ghost Machine books on my list. So this is where I had to put John's to at least reflect my appreciation. Done with that.
That's not honest.
now you
though.
got
That's not
now you got to
honest.
tell us. Now you got to tell us
What?
where your number 3 is.
Wait, why? I will.
Because
Why
then
is it honest?
you're making concessions just to fit him in.
No,
that's
no,
that's
no,
what
no,
we
no,
tried
I
to.
don't agree. I don't agree. See, I don't
No.
agree at all because John's as a writer wrote lots of books. Each book may not have been Dapp's in top set. Like they may be they might have been like his 11th through 20th books. But the fact that John's was one of the key contributors to multiple books that would have been like say in his runners up
All
make
right.
it certainly possible it would be in his top 5.
Well,
as a creator.
you don't know
Because
this,
when-
but Dapp consulted with me before.
Oh.
Yeah, I know he did.
Okay.
He said, "What am I? Where am I going to put this red coat? I want to put it in."
But when I
said,
get
"You
my
can't."
reasons, when I get my
It
reasons,
fascinates me because to me, like Red Coat is by far and away my least favorite of these books.
Because you're wrong. In this instance, you are so wrong.
It's crazy. No, I concede that I am out of
Nah,
the,
it is honestly, it's head and
the
shoulders the
frequency.
best Ghost Machine book.
I think Hyde Street is, but that's cool.
No.
I'm still. I don't. I read.
I mean, none of them made my list, so I'm not going to fight hard. I'm not going to die on
yeah,
this hill. I'm not going to
it's-
die on the hill. But
Yeah, it's red coat.
in any regard, Dapp, what's your number 3 creator?
My number 3 is his name has been mentioned already. Dan Mora. We got Batman, Superman, World's Finest at the beginning of the year. We've got Absolute Power. We've got
goddamn
this
machine.
Superman stuff, and of course Justice League Unlimited. So yeah, he just, which is why he hasn't been on World's Finest recently, obviously, because DC's got him working on the other half of the line. But yeah, he's a phenomenal talent, and
He is.
and he had to be put on this list somewhere.
Word up. My number 3, and again, after like the last conversation we had about this book, I feel like maybe it should be higher. But is Taiyo Matsumoto?
Yeah.
Through these days,
Yeah,
I
it should
think
be
he's
higher.
fucking incredible.
Should be higher.
Yeah, I know. I kind of feel that way too, but I'm not going to like redo my list in the middle of the show. Yeah, but fucking incredible.
Yep.
Absolutely amazing, and unlike Vince, I have not read his other stuff, but it is an absolute part of my 2025 priorities to go back and read what he's done otherwise.
You
At
didn't
least
read
the
Black
books
and
in
White.
English.
Ken Crete.
No.
I think you did. No?
No, I didn't read Tekken King Reed either. No.
Sonny?
And
you
and
read
also
Sonny?
no,
God damn.
and then hopefully just continue to follow his journey going forward. Like I have people like Ito. So yeah, incredible illustrator and storyteller, and all the heart in the world. And
So let me ask you this before we move on. The conversations with the bird, real or not?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But it's amazing.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like these images, like the bird and the umbrella, like these benign images that are like, basic like day one like illustration class images, but like they mean so much in this book.
But the bird worships him.
Yeah,
And the bird's kind of aloof, like, yeah, whatever. But the bird is there for him. I just think it's a fascinating character study.
don't disagree.
Yeah.
Okay, we are at number 2, and Dapp leads us off.
He's so lucky.
Aw.
Aw.
This is Dan Mora's quite often partner in crime, Mark Waid, Batman Superman World's Finest, Absolute Power, the 12-part action comic serial, and of course going into this year with Batman and Robin Year One. We also have Justice League Unlimited. Pretty much anything he's been doing at DC, I've been reading and enjoying.
Nice.
Respect.
Pretty
like
strong.
I said, I think Wade's having another career resurgence.
Yep.
That's yeah.
Yeah, he's been incredible the last 2 years, this year in particular. My number 2 should be, again, no surprise, given what I've already kind of alluded to. Type of people I put on my list is Manu Larsenet for The Road, which was my number 2 favorite book of the year. So he illustrated it and wrote it, and I love him for it. So
Yeah.
I hope to give him a bro hug at some point down the
I
road.
love
when
him
we go
for
to
it too
Angoulême.
because he made you happy.
Dude, when we go to Angoulême like in a year or two, I'm gonna dap him up.
Hell
Big
yeah.
time. So
I'll be there taking pictures.
who's your number 2, Vince?
Charles Burns. Nice.
Again, on brand. It was your number 2 book.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why I said I can't divest myself from the top 5. With
Yeah.
the only exception is Jeff Johns.
I'm going to make a Well, I'll get to that when we do number 1. So I'm going to make a case for anyway. But I'm up actually. I'm up with number 1. So Charles Burns. Not surprisingly, was my number 1. I would make the reason I think Burns to me had a case for number 1 over the other amazing people we've talked about is because, like, for Final Cut alone, he could have been my number 1, but he didn't just give us Final Cut this year. He gave us Comics and Unwholesome Love, which Comics and Unwholesome Love were 2 of my other like top 40 books of the year.
Nice.
And so, so for me, like, you're an illustrator of that level of quality, and you can read different works in a year that I all think were great. And you're getting my pick. So yeah, Charles Burns is my number 1.
Yeah.
Again,
But that's not all he
did
in 2024. He also published those little sketchbook zine things that he I don't know where he published them. He could have self-published them, but I received them through the Desert Island Mystery Mail.
I know, and that's like a 4th thing. But like Comics was an entire graphic faux covers, right? And then Unwholesome Love was a one-shot.
Yeah,
like actual comic that he pulled from the comics, which was a made up bunch of titles and made a comic out, which is like
meta, super meta.
Dude was feeling himself this year. He's feeling himself. Great.
It's amazing. Like they go away for a while, then all of a sudden they slam up.
Yeah. What did we say? I think we said this was like his first, like Final Cut was his first original work in like what, 12 years, something like that. 8, 12 years.
Is Crust out that long ago?
Yeah, I think so.
Holy crap!
But in any event, I mean, I already know the answer, but Vince, who is your number
1? Richard Corbin. No, it's not. It's Tayu
Say, wait, what?
No. Well, I mean,
those Dark Horse reprints.
Yeah,
I already typed in not to. Yeah.
You know, the Dark Horse reprints, that would have made a strong case, but no, it's Tayu Matsumoto.
That's what I heard, yeah.
Aye.
And Dap, you get to finish us off.
Well, actually, my number 1.
Parlor.
There you go. Happy endings all around. So we have this is actually the pretty much only. Well, we've got the Lobo cancellation special. We've got Pine and Merrimack. We've got the Barfly spinoff from Minor Threats. The the Wolfman from Super Pet special, Identity Crisis, where Monsters Lie Cul-de-sac is wrapping up soon. My favorite creator of the year was Kyle Starks.
Can you fucking get him on the show, dude?
What? Really?
I will reach out.
Can
to
you get him on the show, please?
I'll email him again. Yeah.
All right.
That's surprising, dude.
I'm pretty surprised.
I was looking
I'm not
over
mad at
my
it at
list.
all. I love Kyle Starks.
Right. I mean, thinking about what he wrote the past 12 months and how often he's come up, and it's just that Lobo cancellation special drawn by Kyle Hotz was bananas. But Pine and Merrimack, Jason and I adored. Barfly's been a fucking riot, and yes, Ryan Brown plays a huge role in that. But he pairs wonderfully with Kyle.
Kyle's great. Kyle's great, but just all right. Hear me out. None of his books made your top 10.
Yeah.
Well, so how does that work? How does he be your top 5, number 1, and none of his books make your top 10? Is like
the Lobo cancellation special would have, but it got it got beat out. There were and the same thing with Pine and Merrimack. These were all close to being top 10 books.
Yeah, no, I like it because like I say, Vince, I think it's the same as the Jeff. It's writers see this is where the list can because like writers have the ability of writing lots more things, right? Because they don't have to like. So a writer can write like 5 to 10 things in a year that you think are bangers, and like the collective whole of a writer can make them higher on the list than like any individual component.
Okay.
So,
and everything he wrote were all miniseries or one shots or one page in the DC special. So I mean, it's not like I was reading.
I'm not mad at it at all.
No, I'm not fronting on Kyle Starks. It just sounds.
No,
like,
I know.
It kind of sounds like a consolation prize.
I think haters gonna hate, but like no, I think that is. I mean,
I'm not hating. I think Kyle's a powerful creator.
Yes,
He's a beast.
obviously.
But I mean, if he was,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if he was that powerful,
understand.
one of his books
No,
should
I-
appeared in your top.
I think it speaks to how prolific Kyle is, because if Kyle had put out like 3 books this year, and Dap had him on his list but didn't have the books, that'd be would be hard to defend.
Sure.
But Kyle put out like 6 or 7 things this year that were bangers.
It's like my number one creator is Chris Samnee for a
All
couple of
right.
pages in Batman.
Yeah, right. Batman and Robin, you what? Right?
There's some hate in.
Well, it was either hate or ridicule, which I'm still trying to
Yeah,
figure.
right.
I'm
that
no,
would've
there's
been-
no hating. I'm not ridiculing. I love you.
So to
saying.
recap, to recap, gentlemen, our
Okay.
top 5 creators, and so I'll give my list first because I gave my list last comics. Number 5, Patrick Horvath. Number 4, Jordi Lafebre. Number 3, Taiyo Matsumoto. Number 2, Manu Larsenet. And number 1, Charles Burns. Vince's top 5. Number 5, Jeff Johns. Number 4, Q Hayashida. Number 3, Yokonobu Tatsu. Number 2, Charles Burns. And number 1, Taiyo Matsumoto.
Japan
And-
represent.
Yeah, 3 of your 5.
Yep.
And King Dap's top 5. Number 5, Hayden Sherman. Number 4, Jeff Johns. Number 3, Dan Mora. Number 2, Mark Wade. And number 1, with a bullet, Kyle Starks.
You are so cute.
All right. Because I love the listeners and because the voting was widespread, I'm going to give their top 10 creators, okay? Just because, again, it was there's only 5 for us, but they voted for a lot of different creators. So I'm gonna give the top 10 some love. Very quickly. The listeners' top 10 creators. Number 10 was Ram V, which I thought was interesting. I liked a lot of what he did this year. So much love. Number 9 was Jeff Johns. Number 8, just in keeping with the work that this gentleman is most known for, also in keeping with the fact that y'all didn't read the book, Charles Burns. Number 7, James Tynan IV. Again, always a solid pick. He puts out lots of good books.
Yep.
Number 6, again, y'all not enough of y'all read this book or be higher. Taiyo Matsumoto. Number 5, an incredible year and someone we've had on the show multiple times and deserves all the flowers. Kelly Thompson.
Yep.
Respect. Number 4, much like Dap's list, Mr. Mark Wade. Number 3, much like Dap's list, Mr. Dan Mora. Number 2, unlike any of our lists, although a great friend of the show for many, many years, since before he was Name and Lights, Mr. Tom King.
That's not surprising.
No, not at all. Tom was mentioned on 29.1% of all ballots. And probably the least surprising thing we've said tonight so far, your number 1 creator, because I think he's your number 1 creator pretty much every year we do these awards, Mr. Daniel Warren Johnson.
it's
I mean,
it's
we
not
all-
surprising
listen,
at all. Yeah.
I feel like we all love DWJ, like he's been our friend since before he was famous, but you all love DWJ even more than we do. Like, you
Yeah, I think
love
so.
DWJ. I think you do. I think your love for him exceeds even our own. And he was on 30.2% of all ballots. Now, I will say, even though he was the runaway number 1 for creators, he was not the most voted, like the most often voted for person. That was actually Dan Mora, who was the number 3 overall, but he was on the most ballots. He was on 32.6%
Wow.
of the ballots. So
I've learned-
so much love.
I've learned 2 things in the past, like say 10, 15 years. Never, ever bet against Tom King or Daniel Warren Johnson.
It was funny. It used to be Daniel Warren Johnson, Tom King, and Jeff Lemire, but Jeff has not gotten a mention.
Yeah.
So
It's odd, a little bit strange. Yeah.
So there's your top 10 creators, and there you have it. So I think it's not even 11 yet, so we're good. We can do some honorable mentions.
We can, but let's before we do that,
Sure.
let's do the winner prize.
Oh, yes. Excellent.
Let Dap do it. Because he's taking
one
kind of a
second.
beating. So
Let me pull it.
he's getting
Dap,
his
I
ass
need-
slapped.
No, he's not. You're slapping his ass for not appreciating Kyle Starks for how great he is. Dap, I need a number from 1 to 172.
93.
Interesting. Why'd you pick that number?
Just came to me.
All right, 1 second.
You would think he would be more prepared.
Bro, I got
He's
to
got
fucking...
he's got to line it up.
Can
and
you
everything.
chill the fuck out, dude? For real, bro. I mean, for real, dude.
I'm all wound up.
Dude, oh my god, I'm pretty sure this was a homie from back in the day, like a long-time patron who's no longer a patron, but at least he still listens and votes, so maybe I'll be a patron again. Mr. Patrick DeLira. He was a
Oh,
patron for a long
nice.
time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
for sure. Yeah, he's not a patron anymore, but I'm not. It sounds like I'm putting on blast. I'm not trying to put you on blast,
No.
Patrick. Thank you for voting. Thank you for listening, and you are the winner, sir. So, I have your email here from your ballot, and congratulations, you've got a $50 gift certificate from Cheap Graphic Novels coming to you. I will hit you up tomorrow. With
That's
that
awesome.
information.
Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, right on. So there you have that. Okay, so honorable mentions. We didn't talk about how we want to do this, so I don't know if you guys want to like just run them off. If you want to contextualize, like, what are you thinking? Like, I don't. We didn't
I
really
think
talk
we,
about
we have
it.
enough time to contextualize.
Okay. I'm just gonna name mine, and
Like all of them,
And
or
then-
are we going to go one and one and one and one?
I don't. Well, I've got like a lot of honorable mentions that,
Same.
so I don't want to go one on one because it'll take too long.
Okay.
So, but it's up to you. I mean, I'm open to whatever you want to do. Why don't you start us off? You start us off. You set the tone.
Okay. This man has had an incredible year in
Are you?
2020.
Oh, so you're doing creator honorable mention.
No, it's a book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a book. Incredible year in 2024, producing more single issues than he has in many years. I have to give it up to Eric Larson for Savage Dragon. The book was great, surprising, shocking, intriguing, captivating. Everything dirty, everything that it's been at its best, but all in the scope of 1 year. I thought he had a great year.
Nice.
Let me
Dak,
keep
you want to
going.
go ahead and give
There
one?
you go.
No. We'll rotate.
Batman and Robin Year One. Even though, just like Absolute Wonder Woman, we only had 3 issues of it, and the reason why I gave it to Kelly and Hayden is because that feels groundbreaking and new and fresh. Whereas, as beautiful as it is, it's still just kind of telling a story that it's established history. So
Yeah.
I enjoyed the book a lot, but who's to say where it'll end up next year? But it didn't make my list. So
No, I get that.
I didn't make it honor.
I'll go. The first one I'll throw out is actually the book that honestly was number 11. Full disclosure, when I did my first take on the list, it was in the list, and then I ended up kind of like digging deeper into all the things I read this year and thought, I gotta make sure this is a spot. And this was also the only Marvel book shot. It's the only honorable mention from Marvel, including so it's. And that was the Doom one shot by Sanford.
Oh, nice.
I should say by Sanford and Jonathan Hickman. But honestly, it was Sanford, Sanford's baby. And the only thing that kept it from making the cut was honestly that it's a one shot. So just from an impact perspective, I felt like I couldn't quite fit a single issue into a list of, given such a good year that we had with these other books. But I mean, far and away from me, this was the most enjoyable thing I read from Marvel this year, and it's the thing I'll remember from this year. Sanford's art is impeccable, and he's unapologetically our buddy, and it's great that he got to write this, and it was his idea, and it was so well received, and I just that good vibes all around from the thing, and I think it's cool that Doom is now going to be the big bad this year in the big Marvel event, and I just thought it was a terrific one shot, and certainly in the old days of these awards, my favorite single issue or one shot would have been this for sure. But
Nice.
So Doom.
Well, I will pluck that from my list because I also have the Doom
Nice.
one shot on my list. So
Okay.
I'm going to add another one because it's
go
a
ahead.
repeat. This would have been number 11 on my list, and it's New York Review Comics, Distant Ruptures, the CF book, which was
I didn't read that.
amazing. You didn't.
I didn't read that.
Which was amazing. I talked about it. I don't know what episode.
Okay.
Check it out. Yeah, it's crazy that a book by CF doesn't crack my top 10. Like, it's just a testament to what an incredibly strong year it was.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was also
Go ahead,
a collection of his. It was all reprint work. Had this been new work, probably it would have been in the top 10. But because it was reprint, I kind of knocked it down a little bit. But that doesn't denigrate the book. It's just it's a great achievement. It's just, yeah.
Yep. What you got down?
Houses of the Unholy.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Baker and Phillips were absent on our list this year.
Yeah, first time in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it which shows you the strength of Reckless, and not that Houses of the Unholy was a bad book. It wasn't. Obviously, our other picks were stronger about it, but still, it was there. It was in the vicinity. It just couldn't crack through.
Yeah, that's on my list of runners up as well.
Runners up.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not on mine, but fair enough. Hold on, I'm just adding to your list there, Vince. Okay, well, in keeping with just in the conceptual continuity, I also have a New York Review book on my list, Vince, and that's Masters of the Nefarious Mollusk Revenge.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Which I thought was just amazing. It's super fun and wild and like completely orthogonal, and loved every page of it. So, yeah.
Sweet. Am I up?
Yep.
Perfectly Acceptable Press, written and illustrated by Ms. Westvind. It is the Grand Electric Thought Power Mother.
Oh, yeah.
Again, a collection of reprinted work, but don't let that dissuade you. It's an amazing package. The production values on this book are just through the roof. It is a nice testament to Westvind's strength as a sequential artist. And just plain artist, yeah.
Yeah, that was a top 20 book in the meta list, by the way.
It's a great book. Yeah.
Now, how is that? When did that come out, Vince?
2024. Late 2024.
No. Okay, because it's part of this week's new releases on CGN, so I didn't know.
Right. No. Yeah, no,
Okay,
it came out.
printing.
It came out maybe October, November 2024. Yeah.
Because it was.
I mean, for context, Dap, it was on 5 of the 30 medalist lists.
Interesting. Okay, then all right, but it's yeah. So it was because it's on the Slack for today for this week.
Right. Yeah, I saw that. And I was like, what?
Yeah. Okay. Good enough.
You're up, Dap.
I'm just driving around here. I'll go with World Tree.
Oh yeah, okay, respect. Yeah.
Right, exactly. See, I mean, because I went back earlier in the year, and I'm like, yeah. So I mean, it's been on it's on hiatus right now, but it was there earlier in the year. But I also feel like the season ender or the cliffhanger, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It's not strong enough for me to like constantly wonder when the hell's it coming back. It's there. I know it's there, but yeah. So. World Tree's a good book, but it's an honorable mention.
My favorite. So I'll go next. My favorite. We've given a lot of love to Living the Line tonight, deservedly so. My favorite Living the Line book has not been mentioned yet, and that is Surviving on Mars, which is written and drawn by Brandon Graham, which is his is basically a diary he's kept over the last few years. His illustrations of that diary and. Obviously we had Brandon back on the show this year, and I thought it was like one of my favorite moments of the year because we'd had him on many years before, and it was great karma. He was back on, and like the whole thing felt great. And he had several works this year, including Moonray Volume 2, that were great, and I felt bad that I couldn't quite squeeze them onto my list. But yeah, Surviving on Mars absolutely was something that I gave a lot.
And we're mentioned in it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that was the next one on my list, and so I will skip that. So you can add it to your little meta list. So the next one is from Fantagraphics, written and illustrated by Tim Lane, Mythologies and Apocrypha.
I was going to say, yeah.
Loved that book, and it's so out of the blue that I mean, if you told me that I'd be talking about a book Frank Sinatra and Joey Bishop and it's just insane and it's crazy. But I love that it exists. I'm still trying to figure it out. Steve McQueen is at the heart of it. And it's like, what the fuck am I reading? Like, and then it gets so downbeat, like in a Acme Novelty Library vein, where bad childhoods and just abused children and neglected children. Like, whoa.
If we ever do a show where we talk about like the most renowned comics of all time that we don't really care for, you just hit on one.
Acme Novelty Library.
Yeah.
See, of course I will disagree with you, but yes, it is not a taste that would appeal to a broad swath of readers. It's a very I get it.
What you got, Dap?
Cormac McCarthy's The Road, adapted by me.
My man.
Yay.
Okay, respect. I'm gonna name a couple real quick, just because there's no reason to discuss them because we've already talked about them, but they were on my list. The Wonder Woman proper, not absolute.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, respect. Hold on, let me put that on for yours, Dad. Hold on here, because I'm gonna do a little publication of this. Transformers.
Okay.
Really did enjoy it. It was my favorite of the. I think it was my favorite of the Energon Universe books this year. Yes, even more than the G.I. Joe stuff. So I do have it on mine. And the other that we've already talked about. Hold on, where was it? Future. Future was my number 12 book. It's like Doom was my number 11.
Nice.
Future was number 12. I like you said, it was because it was, even though it was all by Tommy, like the fact that every story was a completely different visual style, and yet each one was done like perfectly, was redonk. So,
They're stupid. Yeah. Ridiculous.
Stupid. Yeah,
Yep.
for sure.
Yep.
What do you got?
I'll blast off 3
Okay.
because they were mentioned not only in the top 10 list, but also, 2 of them were mentioned in the top 10 list. I have If You Find This, I'm Already Dead by Matt Kint, Dan McDade, Bill Crabtree from Dark Horse. Boy Island was in my also rans by Leo Fox from Silver Sprocket. And the one that hasn't been mentioned, and I'm scratching my head, why? From Oni, Matt Lesniewski's Faceless in the Family.
Oh, okay.
That I thought that would be represented in at least the listeners.
Talked about it, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like, what?
Interesting.
It's a great book.
It is very good. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean I agree with you. Yeah. I think it's because we're like everyone. Maybe our listeners are so loyal to us that Matt was like when he came on the show, and they're like, I can't work for this guy.
He's lighting up on the Xanax. Yeah.
Dab, you're up.
The Skin You're In by Ashley Robin Franklin.
Nice.
Another Silver Sprocket
Good book.
joint.
Real good book.
Yep. Beautiful presentation.
You haven't mentioned the book yet. That
You
would
mean
get
the book?
That would get
I'm
me to
probably-
call him out.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Well, maybe
sure,
he's not going to.
Maybe. Who knows?
I probably am.
I forgot that Dap mentioned this one as well in his list, and so I do want to I'll just get it out of the way, which is The Forged. Love that book, and like
Nice.
it warms my heart that like Dap came to it after me. It was even like more potent for him. So
And it's Rucka, too. You don't often hear Dap talking about Rucka.
no, Dap loves Rucka. You don't like Rucka.
Well, it's not that I don't like him.
You don't like Rucka. It's okay.
The
dude.
guy-
You don't
the guy-
like Rucka.
You don't like Rocco.
He's a wonderful person. I just
No, you don't like his work though. It's
this
fine.
is
You know,
true.
It's okay.
This is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like you don't like Terry Moore, just like you don't like Matt Kent. I mean, you're
No.
not perfect. You're-
You were wrong
you're close to
on Matt
perfect.
Kent. I like Matt Kent a lot.
You like Matt Kint's writing.
Yes.
But his illustration. Okay, anyway, what's your number? What's your next pick, Vince?
Houses of the Unholy.
Okay.
Brubaker, Phillips, and Phillips. Yep.
Didn't make my list, but I understand you guys have it.
What kind of a fucked up world is it where a Brubaker and Phillips book, not one but two, don't manage to crack our top 10?
Yeah, well, I didn't think it was that hot, but that's fine.
Well, you're kind of wrong.
It was a great year in comics, so just
It
they're allowed to have a good year every now and then because every other fucking Hall of Fame worthy.
Well, I think it was. I think
I
Houses
think
of
the lack
the
of Reckless also didn't help.
yeah, that didn't
Yeah,
help too.
agreed.
But I think Houses of the Unholy could stand with anything they've done before. You're just not seeing it.
Agree to disagree. Dad, what do you got?
I got Dawn Runner. Ran V8.
Wow.
me too.
There you go.
Me too. Let me just say it's on mine as well, so let's cross that off. Yep.
Neat.
Phenomenal, right? Phenomenal.
Yes. Yeah.
Part of the reason I'm sure Ram V was so high on the list, creator list.
Yeah,
Evan Cable can draw his ass off too.
big time.
Okay, let me try and get one that's I'm pretty sure is not going to be on New Year's list. Okay, the Library Mule of Cordoba. Lupano.
Not on my list.
And Leonard Chemino by Ablaze. My only Ablaze book. Super fun import. I love Lupano's work. Talked about it at some episode that Dap can look up for us. But
Nice.
yeah, great.
Dap is now the librarian at Alexandria.
He's the librarian.
He
Well,
knows
he's the library. He's the librarian mule of.
Yeah. My next pick, I wish I could have found room for this book in my top 10 because I adore the artist. And I think the writing is top notch as well. Absolute Wonder Woman.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I needed to put this book higher, but I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. All good.
Episode 948, Jason.
Oh, my man. Goodness. What do you got, Dap?
Let's see what I got now. I'm not trying to get these yet. I'll it kicked off the year with Jason Jason Aaron and John Timms, and then we ended the year with Mark Waid 12 weekly 12-parters, so I went with Action Comics.
There you go.
Ooh.
Good choice.
On brand.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, this book probably would have been on my top 10, except that like people are just tired of talking about how great it is, and so I'm like, okay, I'll just put on my honorable mentions. That's Saga.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep. I don't have any more.
Oh, really? You're cleaned out.
Yeah, cleaned out. Yeah.
Okay. Dap?
I'll just do my DCs. I've got Kneel Before Zod.
Wow. Okay.
I've got Tom King and Daniel on one,
Okay.
and I've got the Lobo cancellation special.
Interesting.
I do also have Local Man
Okay.
wrapped up. Redcoat,
Okay.
Should be higher.
Rook Exodus,
It should be higher.
Okay.
Pine and Merrimack.
Okay.
Last two from the World of Minor Threats, Barfly.
Excellent.
Okay.
And for Vince, Grendel Devil's Crucible Defiant.
No, you didn't. You didn't mention the book. That's all you have
was the
left.
That's the last of my books.
What
All I
was
have
the book?
left
Wow,
is
that
Creators.
fucking Five Fingers the Hand bullshit.
Oh, hilarious.
Oh no!
Yeah, that book is. I mean, after you brought it up, I looked at it.
That's
I'm like,
funny.
no, why?
Because I dug the concept of
Yeah,
the interlocking, the two different mysteries overlapping.
Yeah, that's
and then-
cool. Yeah, okay, I'm not.
And it was like
I'm
a Blade
not trying to
Runner
make you.
vibe.
Yeah,
No, I know. And I'm not trying to defend it, but there was Blade Runner vibe towards the end of it. It just
Yeah.
there was a
liked it.
lot.
I liked
yeah, it from a sci-fi
It
aspect.
wasn't in
it
my
was
honorable
cool.
mentions, but I liked it.
No,
enough.
come on.
Right?
At,
Yeah,
at the
it's not,
dance,
not on mine either.
if we were at the dance, that book is in the corner looking overlooked.
Well, no, I'm saying
Yeah,
I don't.
hanging out with me.
It's probably like in
No.
the middle of the. It's like of the things I read this year. It's like
and it's not any slight on Ram V. I just don't think the book looks good at all. Either one.
I
of
understand.
them. Yeah.
I understand. So, Dap, is that your whole list?
That is as
That
far as
be-
comics go. Yeah, everything else is just creators.
I'll run through mine then quickly. A few more. A Black Sad, They All Fall Down, Volume 2.
Silly.
By what?
It's silly that it's an honorable mention.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, damn.
That's how good comics are. If that's
Right,
not
yeah.
a mention in a year
Yeah.
like this, yeah.
Juan Diaz Canales and Juan Yo Guarnido. Dracula Book 1, The Impaler by Matt
Right?
Wagner and Kelly Jones.
Yep.
Loved it.
Yep.
Loved it. Guilt Frame by Matt Kint and Margie Kraft Kint, a.k.a. Matt's mom. Helen of Windhorn, Tom King, Bilquis Evely, and Matt Lopes. Hypericum, Manuel Fior by Fantagraphics. My favorite thing is Monsters Volume 2 by Emil Ferris.
Naturally.
Again, liked it, but after the first one was one of my favorite things I've read ever. This one was not that.
I think-
Once Upon a Time,
I think Volume 2 is widely regarded as a major step down.
for sure, absolutely, yeah, no question. Once Upon a Time at the End of the World by Jason Aaron, Alexandre Tefenki, Nick Stracata, Leila Del Duca, and a host of others. Precious Metal by Darcy Von Pulkins and Ian Bertram, friend of the show. Rare Flavors by Ram V and Felipe Andrade.
Yep.
The Hidden Life of Trees, a graphic adaptation by, well, the novel was Peter Wollenben, and it was adapted by Frederick Bernard and Benjamin Flau.
Right.
And two more. The Midnight Order by Matthew Bablé. And then, last but not least, Zatanna, Bring Down the House by Mariko Tamaki and Javier Rodriguez. So,
Yeah.
and there you have it.
Crazy.
I will quickly rattle off the listeners the rest of the top 25 for them. Again, I'm going to give you the top one when we publish it. But their number 25 book was Saga, 24 The Power Fantasy, 23 Incredible Hulk, huge side eye, y'all. Number 22, my favorite thing is Monsters Book 2. Number 21, The Doom One Shot. Number 20, Rook Exodus. Number 19, Fantastic Four. I mean, respect, I guess.
Okay.
Number 18, Houses of the Unholy. Number 17, Nightwing. Humongous, tremendously big side eye on that. Number 16, Local Man. Respect to our boy Tony Fleece and crew. Number 15, The Sacrificers. Number 14, Helen of Windhorn. Number 13, Rare Flavors. Number 12, Dan Da Dan. And number 11, what?
12? That makes sense. Yeah.
And number 11, a book we have yet to mention tonight, even though we marked out over the first issue, Absolute Batman.
Did you read the fourth issue?
I've not yet, no.
Okay. We'll talk when you do.
I haven't either.
Yeah. And then our listeners, their other creators, the top 25 of their creators. Number 25, gotta give him some love. Number 25, coming in strong, Tony Fleece, fourth chair. Let's go. Let's
dude.
go. My guy.
He'd be like, okay,
Number 20
I'm good with that.
He's good. He's good with that.
Yeah.
Number 24, Emil Ferris. Number 23, Tom Taylor. 22, Ian Bertram, another friend of the show. Number 21, DAP's number 1, Kyle Starks. Number 20 is I don't have an I juxtaposed I juxtaposed a cell, so I think I don't have number 20. I think Tony was actually 24. So I need to go back and look at the data to pull that in. So we'll skip that one. Number 19, Brandon Graham. Number 18, Rick Remender. Number 17, because a lot of people cheat like Vince, the Ghost Machine team. Like, that's absurd.
The whole team.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, the
It's
whole
like
team.
75 creators, but okay. Number 16, Bilquis Evely. Number 15, Ed Brubaker, which is like an absolute slap in the face of Sean Phillips, but whatever. Number 14, Nick Dragata. Number 13, Yoshinobu Tatsu. Number 12, Jeff Lemire. Number 11, Jonathan Hickman. So there you go.
What the hell did Hickman? Oh, Ultimate Spider-Man.
Ultimate Spider-Man.
They
God,
like that book. They like that
They
book.
love that book, man. They love the Ultimate Spider-Man book. Yeah, they do.
Come on. Sanford wrote Doom. Jonathan
write
just
Doom,
pushed
absolutely.
a little bit of the words around. Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you have it, folks. There was our year in review. I like this format a lot. I think it was fun. I think it was like you said, Vince, it's a better representation of the things if we were to tell people, what should I read from this year? I was busy. I didn't get a lot of comics. I think our lists this year are more evocative of what we want people to read
Yeah.
than like prior years. So, yeah. for sure.
Yeah, in the past it was like favorite insect-based miniseries.
All right, don't be a dick now.
No, I'm
That's
just
not what it
saying.
was.
Like, what do you pick? Bug Wars, Sectars? Okay. It's yeah, this is much more conducive to greatness, the stuff that really, really clicked. I had fun. We hope you did too. If you want to buy any of the stuff we talked about, you know where to get it. cheapgraphicnovels.com. And better yet, you're not going to pay a whole lot for it. Plus, all the specials that Dap mentioned at the head of the episode. If you want to see even more specials, well, you just come over to our Slack. And you get on the Slack by joining our Patreon, patreon.com/11 o'clock comics. We'd also appreciate a review. Wherever you listen to this, drop us a review, whether it's the star system or actually words. It matters because the algorithm drives the whole thing. And we're not going to do any of your travels, are we?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Pick something from our list.
In your travels...
no, I'm telling the listeners to pick something from our
in
list.
your travels, read anything from our list that you haven't already read. It's a good start. It's a good start. So in the meantime, get yourself to a comic book shop. Buy something, preferably something that we talked about tonight that you haven't read. Read it, come back and talk about it because chances are really good that we'll be talking about it here. Say goodnight. Say, oh boy. Say goodnight.
Say goodnight.
Don't. Yeah, okay. Say goodnight.
Emotional damage.
There you go.
Hey, yeah, it's crappy. I think it's time to get the fucking Nitro.
Let's get the Nitro.
Yeah. It's lame. We keep using the same shit.
It is.
We're not lame.
We're not.
No. I said David,
Yes,
didn't I?
it.
Didn't
Nope.
I? Oh,
Nope.
No, you did.
David. That's a long time.
It really is. Good night.
You could do the version of an audio ellipsis by doing bup, 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 and then just say David.
Yeah.
It really frosts my ass when someone will do an ellipsis with more than 3 periods, and
No, you
they
can't. You got it. No, it's
no,
terrible.
they
You
just
can't do
they
that.
just drag it across the page. It's like, dude,
Nah,
an
you can't
ellipsis
do
does
that,
not
bro.
have 16 periods in it.
Nope.
Nah, you can't. That's
Freaking
offensive.
stupid. It is offensive.
Yeah.
And I also, when someone is trying to instruct or elucidate and they misuse an apostrophe, you lost me.
Oh,
You lost
No,
me.
you're out.
I can't.
You're out. You're out.
dude, I work at a college, and
Yep.
the apostrophes are just. Do you not know?
I
what you're doing?
think it is the most maligned punctuation mark. Is the
I
apostrophe.
agree. Well, that or the exclamation point.
Oh, people love overusing the exclamation point.
People.
Well,
love
I
the
think
fucking
I
exclamation
think there's a
point.
difference between overused and maligned. Like you can
That's
just
true. No, that's
add
true. Yeah,
exclamation
that's
points,
true.
but to really fuck up an apostrophe like that takes some skill.
Dude, the other thing is quotes. People put shit in quotes. It's like, nah, bro, that's not a quote. Like, that's not fucking a quote.
Here,
It's like a proper name.
no, wait, this
Proper name. Like, that's
this
the
is-
name of something.
You'll love this. For the first 15 years of my life, I thought that happy birthday had to be in quotes. Because whenever my mother would send me to a birthday party, it would be happy birthday in quotes, Jimmy. And I said,
Wow.
yes. So that may be one of the reasons why I have such an overpowering need to see punctuation used correctly, because my mother fucked up every birthday card.
That's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. Like, why would you put quotes on happy birthday?
So for the bonus content, I'm looking at the meta list, seeing like what we didn't talk about.
Wait, we have to end it then.
Oh,
And then we can do bonus contents. Tell them that you love them so much.
So
we
much.
do love you, and we hope you enjoy 2025 and what we bring to the table as much as you enjoy 2024.
Yes. Try not to get shot in 25.
Yeah, just keep yourselves off of social media. Just
That's a
Fall
good,
in line.
no, that's that's very good advice.
Yeah.
If you have social media anywhere else but Blue Sky, cancel your account.
or Slack. If Slack
well, no,
has social media.
Slack is like a clubhouse. It is social media.
No, I
but-
agree. No,
Yeah.
I mean it's more of like a club, like a cool
Yeah.
kids club.
If
Yeah,
you're on
like,
the
yeah.
Insta or the Facebook, get the fuck off there.
I gotta say, dude, I'm kind of sad because like I love Insta because art, I get the funny,
Yeah.
puppies. I get the titties. The
You-
last
you
few
can-
days have
you
been
can-
rough.
Yes, you can.
The
get
last
the-
few days have been rough,
You
dude.
can get the titties elsewhere.
What, like Reddit or somewhere?
Lots on Reddit. Oh, there's
Jack-
there's
I
lots
gotta-
of titties on Reddit.
I gotta smarten up on the
And
Reddit, I
Blue
think.
Sky. You can. I mean,
Yeah.
Oh,
No.
I mean,
Okay.
oh, dude, there are sex workers out the ass.
No,
on
Blue
Blue
Sky is
I
filthy.
need to
Yes.
smarten up on both of these then, because
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, you might want to. You might want to start.
I
Your
mean,
own
listen,
account on Blue
real
Sky.
talk, real talk. I made, I myself, for my firm, thus for me, made an obscene amount of money investing in Facebook, over the years /Meta. But I'm out completely, dude. I can't. Like this fucking guy.
You're not out until you cancel your account.
No, I know. This fucking
Well,
like
no.
You see?
Do it.
Did you see what he said this week about the masculinity?
Yes.
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 I mean, it's like, what are we talking about here? Like, what? Like, what are we talking about?
It's
Like, I don't
amazing
even-
that I don't think, we don't really need to get into this now because it's the end of the episode. If you want to hear what we're about to say, become a patron because then you will. Unexpurgated just talk. So please, we love you so much. Patreon.com/11 o'clock comics. We're out of here. Read those books and we'll be back next week.
Yep.
That's it for that one.